Hi everybody, Rolando here from Bojin Gamer. I hope everyone's doing well today. Let me just figure out what's going on with the cat camera here. There we go. Because goodness knows the cats are more interesting to watch than me sometimes. So, welcome everybody. Today is a special day of Modern Micro Armor. As you can tell, it's Sunday it's Sunday afternoon. It's just past noon here in Korea. Today we're going to do Modern Micro Armor once again, but this time we're going to do it in a much more casual, explanatory fashion. So for those of you who are watching this afterwards, I hope this will be a great way, as long as the cat doesn't turn off my... as long as the cat doesn't turn my computer off. A great introduction on how to play this game. And just so this way you can play it yourself as well, because I found personally that this game was a little hard to understand the first time I tried playing it, namely because the resources available for this game, there's not really any YouTube or video walkthroughs that you can watch to see how to play this game. And so what ends up happening is basically you end up just kind of lost with not knowing how to play the game. So before our big game next week, we're going to go ahead. Let me make sure just my phone here monitoring chat is turned down there so I don't hear myself. Before next week, we're going to have a special game where I have a couple of my buddies who were in the same unit as me that inspired Black Horses, the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment. They're going to be coming by to help play the game with us, and they're going to be playing the Denovian and Atropian sides, respectively, and this way I'll be the GM, and we can see how the game actually shakes out with real players instead of me metagaming everything, because I'm playing all three parts. So yeah, so we're going to go ahead and try to explain how the game works today, just a little bit more in detail and a little bit more casually. Plus, if you've seen the other ones, this is going to be not a full game, but this is going to be just a truncated version. And we're also including infantry units in this now, because the map that my brothers decided to choose to showcase all of you Black Horses, which is available now on Amazon. I will make sure that the link is available on all of our social medias. They chose a map that has infantry integrated into it. So I wanted to make sure, one, that I knew how to play infantry, and two, that I can properly adjudicate the rules and kind of give you guys an introduction to it. Because again, this game, there's not really any resources online. They have the free version on GHQ. Actually, let's go ahead and take a look at this right now, so you guys can see. So this is who I'm using for this. This is GHQ right here. They've got some really great miniatures. I get all my miniatures through them. They also have the rule book, as you can see. Right here, we have said rule book for Modern Micro Armor, the game. I find this rulebook, I like this game because I come from the D&D world, so I like games that provide me just a basic set of rules and a lot of flexibility for how you want to structure your game and scenarios you want to structure, and the ability to really make your own. And the problem that I had while looking into other games like Fistful of Toes or games like that is that they require more pieces of equipment. They require cards, they require certain particular miniatures. Here I find that this is very loose, and maybe you know, some game systems are a little bit more optimized than this one, but I like Modern Micro Armor because of that kind of flexibility, because then it allowed me, making Black Horses, to think that I could make it kind of general, and then you could apply which rules you wanted with this rule set. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and you guys can check out their website at ghqmodels.com. I'm not sponsored by them, but I find that D&D has gotten really popular lately, which makes me really happy, because I got into D&D in the past few years. I was always a little interested, but never fully initiated until maybe I really got in the army. So a couple like in the past decade. But I find that wargaming is still kind of on the fringe. So I would like to, with tabletop games making such a breakthrough these days, I figure maybe wargaming will too, and maybe it'll become a little bit more casual. And especially because having been in the army, I know quite a few of my fellow officers. For whoever of you are watching this afterwards, if you do, you're all nerds. All of the captains, all the lieutenants played D&D. They played Star Wars Squadrons. They played all of those. So I figured might as well make content for people that I know would appreciate it, because the wargaming that we did in the S3 shop, in the operations shop when I was planner, yeah, we joked about bringing dice in, but we never really did. But anyways, enough of that. Let's go ahead and jump in. So again, this is going to be very explanatory and more of a walkthrough of how to play the game. So pardon if it's a little slow, but I hope that anybody who wants to play this game afterwards will be able to play this game with minimal questions, and then any questions, of course, they can refer to people who have far more experience than me, if they know any, or the rulebook itself if it's something specific. So let's go ahead. So I've got my map set up here. As you recognize, it's still the same map from our last playthrough. So this is the Siberian Ridgeline in southern Danovia, close to the border with Atropia. All the vehicles are still set in place to where everybody died last time. So we're going to go ahead and move these guys around a bit. So let's go ahead and first get this board reset, basically. So let's see here. Let's move our red tanks back down here, our Atropians. Yeah, okay. Just reorient. So I find that Roll20, which is what we're using here, again, because I don't have any actual friends here in Korea that play this personally, so kind of difficult to play in person. So that's why we're using Roll20. But I find with a little adjustment, Roll20 works pretty well, and I'm pretty excited about how well this turned out. And we'll see exactly how well it turns out once we have our my buddies joining in next Sunday. Right around, I believe, 9 a.m. I will double check that just so that you guys can make sure you can tune in. I needed to make sure that timing is correct. So here's our last Bradley. Nope, I don't want to X. I just want to. Ooh. Yep. Ooh, that's very convenient. What was that? There's so many things about Roll20 I'm still learning, so that was helpful. Okay, we'll move our Denovians up here. Okay. Let's go ahead and just reorient everyone and get everyone back set. We'll move these guys into better position, but there's a few admin things that we have to make sure we're ready to do first before the game starts. Because again, it is a war game, so we need to make sure we have all of our stats, we need to make sure we have all of our vehicles and all of our resources ready so that we're not scrounging through random pages on the rulebook to try to find these when we're in the middle of the game. So as you can see, I included a few infantry units. I don't have any infantry minis myself. I have only BMPs, T90s, M1A2s, and Bradleys. So this will probably be one of my next purchases, but in the meantime, I found some decent painted infantry minis online, of which I edited. These are not mine. You can simply search US and Russian modern infantry miniatures, and you will find, I'm sure, one of the many pictures that I looked for to make these. But these are not mine. I am simply using them as placeholders, so these do not belong to me. Again, these ones right here for the tanks are actually cropped pictures of my minis that I painted, and I took pictures because I thought it is a miniatures game. It would be a shame if you guys didn't get to see the miniatures. So these ones are all mine. The 2S19 and the Paladin are also like the infantry models that I found elsewhere, just for placeholders while we play this game, because I don't have those actual miniatures myself. So anywho, I need to make this compass rose stand out a little bit. GM overlay capacity, there we go. Cool. All right, so the infantry, we'll talk about that. So first things first, in this game, there are a lot of different statistics for said units. So again, if you've watched my stuff before, I have a spreadsheet that I created. And actually, let me minimize this so you guys can see it a little bit better. There we go, so you guys can see it. So as you can see right here, yeah, whatever, sure. As you can see right here, I have this whole scenario tracker, so that this way I know exactly what I'm looking at any and all times, as the game master, basically, as the person running the game. So I have the number of which turn we're on, map, scenario, visibility, etc. So we're gonna go ahead and set this map just so I know Siberia. So I know it's Siberian Ridgeline in my Black Horses module. The date and time is for those of you who are running historical examples or historical games. You can obviously put the date and time. Time also is going to deal with. I found that sometimes I forgot, and again, these are things that there are rules for in the back of the book, for things that visibility or acclimate weather can cause. So I want to make sure that there's a tracker here, so that as a game master, you're not forgetting to add those in. Effects such as snow or rain and what they do to visibility, or of course the time of day. If it's nighttime and you have early generation vehicles, they're going to be at a huge disadvantage because they cannot see and aim properly. Whereas if you have modern vehicles, they all have thermal sights and they have night vision capabilities, and so they are able to still move and fight with impunity, essentially, as long as they're well trained. I saw many of an American crew in an Abrams flip tanks, hit each other by accident, like run tanks into each other because they were not well trained at night, even though they had the thermal capabilities and the night vision capabilities. So, that'll all come into play. So, well, for the sake of this, we're going to keep it pretty easy. So time 1300, right in the middle of the afternoon. Nothing, not too early, not too late in the evening. 100% visibility, clear weather, so no effects. Weather, sunny, hot, we're going to say no effects just for the sake of it. Temperature, the typical temperature for August in Denovia, which for those of you who are not in the know is very, very close to, it's a training area very close to Death Valley, California, so 95 degrees sounds about right. Maybe a little cool, but, I think it'll work for what we need. We're not going to say that has any effects necessarily, so we're going to keep that way. So then also for the Game Master, just to track, we're going to go ahead and say that this is simply a movement to contact. A simple two sides run into each other, they start fighting. It's you move until you engage and then engage the enemy from there. Victory conditions, we're just going to say 100% destruction, so destroy the entire other team in detail. In my module in Black Horses, the victory conditions are not always like that. They are set for other things like 70% destruction, but these are with many more units. And on top of that, sometimes it's varying. Sometimes it's simply moving units across a certain point in the map, or capturing a certain point and holding it for a certain amount of turns. So here, very simple, just destroy the enemy. Nothing else you need to really worry about. So our combatants are Denovia and Atropia. Denovia are using primarily modern Russian equipment, and the Atropians are using modern American equipment. And now by modern, I primarily mean the 2010s, so not quite 2020s. Not anything really that they've been using in the last 2 years about, but really think around circa 2018 and you'll get a pretty good idea. So mostly what we have, but definitely some lessons learned being implemented from things that we're seeing at that time in Syria and with ISIS and things like that. So, so we've got that. We're on 0 turn, so we're just in the planning, the pre-planning phase. I'm not gonna have, I don't know, notes. Use the beer and pretzel, I can spell, beer and pretzel rules for free on GHQ. GHQ does offer, I'll show you that real fast. They do offer on resources, if you go to free stuff and Micro Armor Modern, they do have the beer and pretzels rules, so it's a very, very, what is the word I'm looking for? Abridged version of the rules. And it's helpful, certainly, and they have all the template markers and the unit data sheet and everything, and even some scenarios. So you can really actually play the game for free, more or less. But certainly, the book has far more rules, in depth about stuff, and so I actually went out of my way to buy this so that I could have it physically and read through it. So that this way, when I was making Black Horses, I could ensure that I was making sure that the scenarios I was setting up were as rule friendly as possible. So again, my module Black Horses, the book is not made specifically for GHQ Micro Armor. But it certainly was made in mind for tabletop role playing, or tabletop wargaming, and the rules that I was using was GHQ. So just to make sure that things that they were mentioning here were also mentioned there. So making sure that I mentioned things like priority of fires and how that might affect turns and things like that of that nature. So let's go ahead and start inputting our information for our two sides, because that's going to be the next big thing. So we've got my unit data sheet that I've made here. Again, all of this is really simple Excel stuff just for the sake of tracking it. So we've got Denovia. We have not rolled our cohesion yet, so let's go ahead and delete that. They are a Generation 4 type army. So in modern Micro Armor, there are different generations to these two different armies. So I will briefly go over what they are just so that you understand. So let's see here. First generation armies are circa World War I. So characterized, and I quote, almost complete dependence on wire communications, telephone and telegraph, horse-drawn transport in the immediate combat zone, and the introduction of motor vehicles and aircraft. Okay, Generation 2, primarily World War II and Korea. So we've now have use of radio communications, tactical air support, tanks, armored transport vehicles, and combat helicopters in the 1950s. So you're getting into the more modern mechanized warfare. Third generation is characterized by the widespread use of helicopters, the first use of battlefield computers, smart weapons, true night vision, and the introduction of stealth technology. So this period, quote, includes the last part of the US-Soviet Cold War, the Israeli invasion of Lebanon in 1982, and the Gulf War of 1991. I had the air quotes because the quotes were in the book. I realize it seems kind of weird, but I'm like, Cold War, Gulf War. Okay, so that's third generation. Then we have fourth generation, which, as you can see, is what I labeled our guys at. So fourth generation came into being largely as a result of U.S. combat experience in the Gulf War and the application of that experience into a fully integrated combat doctrine. So includes the universal use of reliable GPS, stealth technology, remotely piloted vehicles, and other Buck Roger toys the world's armies have come to love so much, applied on a worldwide scale. So essentially modern technology in the battlefield. So everybody has GPS, everyone has reliable radio communications, and GPS systems for navigation and for plotting, and a number of munitions and armament for all sorts of scenarios. Okay, so that's what our generation is. So we're Generation 4. Some of this will come into play primarily when it comes to cohesion. So how well your army works together. And that's the biggest thing in modern Micro Armor, is that is basically, it's almost adjacent to morale. They have additional rules if you want to make it much more complex for morale. But cohesion is essentially how well your fighting force works together and how well they can operate under pressure. Low cohesion will mean that they are not able to fire under pressure. They will not be able to move under pressure. They will completely fall apart without leadership issuing orders, and they just are they're not able to hold together as a cohesive unit. Whereas high cohesion in the initial role will make them basically more of a professionally trained army. They are able to operate almost independently. They're able to take the initiative. They can keep cool under fire and return fire when being engaged, and they can continue to move even if headquarters elements are lost, and they're able to kind of recuperate themselves if need be, and they can go through a proper sequence of command, a chain of command, if headquarters or command units are lost. So, Generation 4, we've got both Denovia and Atropia Generation 4, because again, in my experience when I was part of Black Horse, both were technically the United States Army. So we had all of the training and equipment that you would expect from the Army in 2015 to 18 and then my year in the guard in 19. So like fairly modern, pretty modern. So we're going to need to make sure most of these units have not changed from the other games, but we do need to add the infantry unit, so I will go through and show you how to do that. So as you can see, each unit, for the sake of, again, referencing, this is all just for reference. This does not come with the book, but just like you have a player character sheet in D&D, I found that I need a sheet to ensure that I can keep track of things while this game is going on, because there are a lot of numbers. So we've got our unit type, T90s, with an AT-12, 3 rounds of AT-12. We have our AP value, so our armor penetrating value, specifically for use against armored vehicles. This rule set, Modern Micro Armor, basically says that whatever target you're engaging, you are going to be using the correct ammunition for that. If you're firing an armored vehicle, we're going to assume that your crew loaded and fired Sabo or whatever particular munition your army has to penetrate armor. So that's why they just call it AP, armor penetrating, just in general. HE, high explosive, again for lightly armored vehicles, really unarmored vehicles, and infantry. Again, this is going to assume that you're firing the correct munitions at them, and not that you accidentally fired a heat round at a tank, and that it, therefore, War Thunder, no penetration, you're screwed. Like, defense value, a value of their defense, how well they can withstand attacks. Obviously, armor is going to have a lot more, whereas things like other units here, you'll see that they're nowhere near a defense of 20 like the T90. You have your movement value and class. Again, because Modern Micro Armor uses not only armored vehicles, but also infantry, helicopters, and aircraft. You've got all sorts of stuff to work with here. And again, that's why I like this book. You can have horse cavalry if you wanted in here. Like, you could straight up make the movie 12 Strong. You can make a scenario if you wanted with this rule set. So, our movement value is 16 units, so 16 inches of movement. In Modern Micro Armor, these units are each about 100 meters per inch, and one movement unit is 100 meters, 1 inch. However, depending on the terrain and depending on the type, the class of movement, as you can see, it says T, so we are 16 tracked, so because we're in a tracked vehicle, it will change. If you're infantry, you're going to have 4, I think it's F for foot, and it's going to be, rough terrain is going to affect that each inch is going to take all 4 points of your movement, so you can only move 100 meters per turn. Again, the rules explain it very thoroughly, and I think it's a fairly easy concept to understand if you've played other tabletop games. D&D, you have, again, that's my closest adjacent because that's what I've played the most. D&D has difficult terrain, and it halves your movement and everything. It's very similar to that. It's very similar, except I think it's more in depth and more numbers because you have a lot of different unit types going on. Okay, facing restrictions. Some vehicles, such as wheeled artillery, especially, they have facing restrictions. They don't have turrets to turn. So in order to fire, you need to take a movement to turn that vehicle. Whereas a vehicle that does not have facing restrictions, they have a turret. They can move the turret around, so it doesn't cost them movement to turn and orient on a target. Tech level. So this is the next. Essentially, so when we talked about generations, we were talking about the army as a whole. Tech level is the technology level. This one will specifically come into play when it comes to penalties for firing for range, for artillery, the odds of it deviating off target. In other words, older artillery, older technology artillery, like if you have old World War II artillery, you have a much higher level of those rounds deviating off target, whereas if you're using modern 2S19s and Paladins, so modern tech level 4 vehicles, there's a much lower chance of it deviating because you have all the technology and all the complicated fire computers, the fire control computers, basically making sure that it doesn't deviate. That like if you're deviating, it's a very rare occasion, at least compared to older manual kind of analog artillery, basically. Okay, cargo. vehicles like cargo trucks and everything can carry equipment, people. Technically, there are rules if you want armored vehicles to carry personnel on top. We're not going to deal with that right now because those are more kind of in-depth rules that you can find in the book. But for right now, we're going to say no for all of these. We're not going to be transporting infantry around because they do have rules for dismounting and mounting as well. So yeah, same thing, cargo and transport. If they can carry other things with them, either people, personnel, packs, or weaponry or ammunition or something like that. Okay, so then we also have our BMP2, again, AT5. As you can see in these AP value and ranges, it has because they have two, they have the main gun and the AT system, the AT12 and the AT5 respectively. Let's look at the T90. 23 is the AP value of the main 125 millimeter gun on the T90. The 40 is the AT12. So as you can see, that the ATGM, the anti-tank guided missile, has a much higher. Oh, excuse me. 23 is the armor value, the armor penetrating value of the 125 millimeter gun. 40 is the range in inches. So again, 40 inches, each inch is 100 meters, 4,000 meters, which is about right. 4,000 meters is more or less the effective range. Technically, these guns can range out to about 5,000 meters, but by that point, you're really pushing the computing software. Even with a modern Abrams, shots further than 4,000 meters were like, even with the computer, like, good luck. Like, you need to have a very good gunner for that. 4,000 meters is very much, anything under 4,000 meters is more within range and more typical of training at gunnery. So I don't think we actually ever did anything more than 4,000 meters in gunnery. I really don't think so. I can check my old gunnery charts, but I don't think any of it ever was. And then in the parentheses, again, for my own clarification, that is the AT rounds. So the ATGM, the anti-tank guided missile, has a penetration of 21, not quite the same as the main gun, but it has a much further range, 5,000 meters, 50. This is very typical of ATGMs. Most ATGMs can reach out to about 5K, which made planning around things like javelins and the like, especially because we were up for mainly javelins and tows, was always complicated because wherever you suspected that, you had to draw a 5K bubble around it, and that's what you had to deal with. That was the radius that you had to deal with right there. Okay, so the same goes for the BMP. You've got your AP and HE values and the AT targets. Again, you can use an AT5 against personnel, but it's very ineffective. Not really intended for that. So the value of it is only 5. It's very low, whereas 17 armor penetrating, 21 on the T90, 7 if you're shooting at personnel. So it may make sense. Shooting something that's intended as an anti-tank guided missile at personnel, you're kind of wasting it. It's not going to do as much damage as you hope. We also have our unit type for the artillery, 2S19, so you can have artillery on the map or off the map, depending on what you want. We did it off map just because I don't want to deal with having those units on map. When they are off map, you take, I believe, a 30% reduction. The rules are in the book. You take a 30% reduction off of the max range. So the 2S19's max range, reduced by 30%, is 173 squares, or basically 17 kilometers still. So that sounds about right. Most modern artillery can range out to well over 20 kilometers. And then with with special ammunition, they can extend even further, like the Excalibur systems and the Paladin. Like there's munitions that can reach much further. So 17 kilometers, 17.3 kilometers is pretty reasonable for off map because it's assuming that they're in the rear and they're firing to where they're out of counterfire range of a enemy battery. Because that is very common that if one artillery fires, you use all of your detection units that are usually implanted with your battalion, like with your reconnaissance units. They detect where that's going off, you have your artillery fire at that artillery to neutralize it. So this is essentially to prevent that you're firing a little too far out of range, or further out of range to slow that process down. So, same thing, HE values the defense, as you see, is an artillery piece, 2 compared to 20. It is not made to take main gun rounds. It is meant to be in the rear. Movement value, 18 tracked. Transport, again, this artillery, because it's of a generation technology level 4, there is no facing movement. It has a turret it can turn. So we do need to add something to both of these. As you can see, Atropia has something very similar with Abrams, Bradley's, and the Paladins off map. And before we add, actually, I'll finish explaining the rest of what I think is important to track. I have my artillery for the players to place in if they have pre-planned targets or targets that they're calling in the field. And this needs to be kept from the other player and only what's sent to the game master, so that this way there's no metagaming of like, oh, I know there's an artillery strike there, so I'm just not going to go that way. So here is for their mission number, which turn it will impact on. If it needs a forward observer, again, generation levels and technology levels will come into play. At generation level 4, modern armies, you do not need a dedicated FO because everybody has the ability to call in artillery. Everybody has the ability to pinpoint with their GPS and with basic map reading skills, even with just a map compass and a protractor. Hopefully, even a lieutenant could call for fire without the need of a dedicated forward observer. The firing unit, which unit's doing it, the ordnance, AP or HE, and depending on the unit, Denovia has a few nasty things in its arsenal, permanent and non-permanent chemical rounds included. The sheaf pattern, if it's in diamond, or really a triangle, kind of a pyramid, or if it's linear, and then target location, and if it was pre-planned or not. So I think these are the important things to remember for artillery. And then the last part of the tracker is our turn tracker. So each turn, we're going to continue assuming that we're going to roll for initiative the first time, and that's it. And then we're going to roll through each turn with the same initiative, because in these rules, whoever has the initiative has the option to allow the other team to go first, and for things like firing and movement, which are the most important parts, you alternate anyway. So if the person with initiative goes first, then the other opponent goes second, moves the unit. Then the original person goes third, makes the next movement. So it kind of balances it out. It's not like, again, my closest analogy, because it's what I've played, it's not like D&D where the initiative order, like, you're kind of stuck waiting while this person just moves, then hits you, and then moves again, because it's all supposed to be 6 seconds. Like, you're getting hit with all these things, and you can't really do anything until you have to wait all the way to your turn. Whereas here, he hits, then you're allowed to hit. Then he moves, you're allowed to move. And then, like, you can kind of alternate between. So I don't think it's important enough to roll initiative each turn. You can if you want to, because it certainly makes it seem like you can't, like it's part of the turn system, which turns you're in, how the game, basically the general flow of play. Roll turn 1 or sequence 1 is always determining initiative, which again, I just say assume the same initiative, so this way we can kind of speed the game up. But again, if you want to roll initiative each time, feel free. Your initiative is going to be your cohesion, which is, again, rolled before the game starts, and 2d6, so 2 6-sided dice. Movement orders, so how many commanded movements you can make that turn from your headquarters. And then I like to do this with call signs and ATGM or anti-air rounds, because they are depleted as you go. And there are rules for determining if you're depleted or not, but I think it's kind of a silly rule, because I think it's easier just to keep track of how many ATGM rounds you've fired. Although I do understand what they're saying is how many rounds you've gone through, and then if you have to pull them out of storage or something. I think with each turn lasting 3 minutes, that if you fired an ATGM and you're out, I think at a generation level 4 army, that crew is going to know and going to begin to start resupplying if need be from outside the vehicle if they need to reload missile launchers. So I like to just assume that they are doing that for the sake of simplicity. But I do keep track of my ATGM and AA rounds here, which is important here because, again, a lot of these guys, especially with Russian equipment, tanks and infantry fighting vehicles have ATGM rounds on them. For American vehicles, so a Tropia's team in this game, it's mostly the Bradleys, but you still want to be able to track these because most of these people have the capability of firing ATGMs. Okay, same thing goes for, again, on a Tropia. I'm not going to re-explain it. It's the exact same stuff, but with American equipment, with Abrams, Bradleys, and a Paladin. So let's go ahead and fill in the next chart for infantry. So, because we're adding infantry to this fight. And actually, for the Denovians, we are adding two different type of infantry. We are going to be adding a regular infantry, and then we're going to be adding a dismounted ATGM team. So, let's go ahead and place them. Again, if you get the book, it comes with all of these wonderful little charts. Let's see here so you guys can see. All these wonderful charts in here. Wait, the sunlight's so bright. There you go. Just a lot of charts. So, let's look for infantry. It's in the very back. It's almost the last thing before aircraft. Okay, so infantry, and it goes by year. So we're going to use the most modern infantry. It doesn't have anything in the 2000s in this book. So we're going to go with 1990s, and this is mostly just in firepower capability in general, and also movement. So I don't think it's too much of a difference between now and 1990 in terms of how fast a squad of people can move. I think the equipment is fairly similar, so I don't think it's going to change that much. So we're going to say infantry type A, which is your primary infantry. Ooh. Okay, infantry type A. So we're going to say infantry A. Let's see. Now we look here for their AP value. Let's see here. 8 and a range of 200 meters. Okay, so they can't really. That's about right. 8 and 2. HE value, so they're high explosives. We've got 7 and 5. So it seems like they have a little bit more range depending on weapon systems here. Yeah. So the 200, I'm imagining, is something they might have something like a law or an RPG on them. And so it's very low AP value and very minimal range. Although really an RPG can go much further than 200 meters. But again, it doesn't tell you exactly what type of armament they have. That is up to whatever army you're using. Again, we're using the Denovians and Tropians as analogous to the Russian Federation Army and the United States Army circa 2018. So small arms are primarily on the Atropian American side. M4s, M249 saws, 240 Bravos, grenades, hand grenades, like nothing too out of the ordinary. And then for anti-tank, none of these are javelins per se. That is going to be a separate unit, a separate squad. This is your typical kind of infantry squad. And then for the Russian Denovian, that's going to be primarily like AK-12s, AK-74s if they haven't shifted to the not the AK-12s, the AK-102, my bad. The AK-102, PKMs, cords, things like that. So defense value, again, they are infantry, so not a lot. 6, but also it has 2 little stars by it, and I believe they tell you why. Let me just make sure. Excuse me. Okay, so the stars for defense. If the defense value of a stand is marked with 2 asterisks, so infantry, the defense value of that stand is halved if it is fired on while moving or in the movement posture, round down. So if this unit is moving and then fired on primarily during opportunity fire moments, that defense is halved because they're not dug in, they're out in the open. So, woof, that's 3. So essentially anything can kill them. Which makes sense. Infantry in the open moving is extremely vulnerable. Extremely vulnerable. Okay, and movement and class. They are infantry, so not much. It is going to be fast. Hold on, I did these numbers wrong. I was looking at the wrong infantry unit. I was looking... So, infantry type A actually only has 8 and... Oh, no, never mind. I'm good. 8 and 5, but they don't actually have an HE value. That's what it is. I was looking at. So, they don't have an HE value. So, really, everything they're using has some form of armor penetration, but not much. So they've got some... It looks like they have some like light machine guns and things like that on them. So not much armor penetration. Maybe they could penetrate the side of a striker if they shot every round that they have at it, or I guess a BRDM, but or a BTR. But okay, and the defense value is still 6. 4 foot for their movement. So on foot, so they're going to be affected by a lot of different types of terrain. So they're going to come with a lot of penalties, and they can only move 400 meters per turn, and each turn in Micro Modern Armor is 3 minutes. So, wait. That's not true. Give me a second. I messed that up. It is... No. That's right. Yeah, it's 3 minutes. Because the standard game is 20 rounds. So 3 minutes per 20 rounds is 60 minutes, so it's an hour. So each game is essentially an hour in gameplay time. Although I find that they take much longer than that in real life, like most games do. 10 minutes in D&D can take 4 hours to play through. Okay, so facing restrictions, they have none. So we're just going to big fat N right there. Tech level, let's see here. They are tech level 4 because they are modern infantry. Let's see here. Cargo, nope. They have no capacity. And then transport required, 8. So they need at least a transport unit of 8 if they're able to, if they want to move people. The cargo. Someone needs a cargo capacity of 8 to move their transport of 8, is what I'm going to assume looking at this. Give me 1 second just to read through, because I think that makes sense. So let's see. Yep, exactly. It's exactly that. So, yeah, a vehicle needs a cargo number higher than the transport number. So let's see, what does a BMP actually have for a cargo? I'm curious. I just want to see real quick, just to give you a practical example. Let's see here. Infantry fighting vehicles. We have got BMP 2s. AT5. Yep, and they have a capacity of 4. So to move this infantry squad would take 2 BMPs, essentially. Okay, anyways, that's cool to know. I'll even change that here so that we have cargo capacity. Okay, so as you can see here, we now have this filled out more with our infantry. Again, an AP value of 8 with a range of 500 meters, no HE value, a defense of 6 that if they are moving and attacked, it is halved. They can only move 400 meters per turn on foot, max, with no restrictions or penalties, which will change in rough terrain. Facing restrictions, none. Tech level 4. Cargo, they cannot carry any additional personnel. They require a cargo of 8 to be transported. So, now that we have that, we're going to add our ATGM team, because we have 2 infantry teams, and now we're going to add our ATGM, which I believe, looking through this before, it is a separate system without a vehicle. So, it is still located in the ATGM section. So, let's see here. We have got, this is all US, here's Russian. Oh, this is artillery. Hold on, where did my ATGMs go? Oh, there we go. Okay. Whoops, skipped a page. So, they are going to be using AT5s. So, the AT5 by itself. So, we're going to go ahead and put this in here. Unit type AT5, and I'm going to make a note to myself. AT5, and I'm going to say dismounted. So that I know it's because, again, the BMPs also have AT5s, but they are obviously mounted to the turret of the BMP. So, the AT5 is an armor penetrating value of 17. Not particularly good, honestly. And a range of 5, so... Oh, wait, hold on. What's going on here? Yeah, okay, yeah. And a range of 30, my bad. And a range of 30, so 3,000 meters, because it's dismounted. And we have HE value of 5, an HE value of 5, and a range of 30. Now also, for the sake of how I've been keeping all of these the same, I'm going to put the max amount of rounds that this carries, so 6 rounds. I have caps lock on already. 6 rounds up here in the title, so I know. So AT5, defense value is MP. Let's see what MP means. So, MP in defense value refers to man-packed weapons. They cannot exist as separate stands and must be attached to some other stand. So, we're going to attach it to our infantry, so it's going to have the same defense value as our infantry. So we're going to say our defense level is the same as the infantry. We might just say man-packed, honestly. Man-packed. So, MP, man-packed. And so it'll have the same defense as these guys, which is 6, unless they're packing it up and moving, in which case it's 3. Their movement class, I think it's probably also going to be MP. Let's see. Yep, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't have a speed because it is man-packed, so it's going to be as whatever they are. Facing restriction, let's see here. No facing restrictions that I can see. Okay, none. Again, these charts have all this information on it. I like to fill these sheets out beforehand because otherwise you're digging through them the whole time, and that's not cool. And it takes a long time. So tech level, it is a tech level 3, I believe. Yeah. The AT10 is 4, but we're going to keep it at AT level 3. Cargo, none. Oh, not M. None. And transport, none. Okay. So, that is now our AT system. We're going to go ahead and get rid of our fire missions here so that we don't have them. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing here. We're going to go ahead and move this infantry into the other column on the Atropian side. Because the infantry is not... It's going to assume a lot of similarities and capabilities in small arms, so it's not going to change this so much. Okay. So there's our infantry. We're going to get rid of our fire mission. Okay. And I need to add, because now we have another ATGM system, I'm going to put AT5, dismount, and 6 rounds. So this way I can keep track of how many rounds it has coming from it. All right, so it's been a while, but we've now added all of our units. We've gone through our sheets, so this is really the prep work. This has been basically explaining your character sheets. Now we're ready to kind of actually begin playing here. But we've added our new units, and I've gone through the rules again. Again, this video is intended for people who have not seen my other videos, and also as a more put-together, focused experience explaining these rules in detail. So again, apologies for kind of how slow this is, but I want to make sure that I am explaining the rules as best as I can, and as best as I can understand them with the rulebook on hand, so that this way you can play too with the beer and pretzel free rules. Or if you're really inspired, you can go out and go get this book. Again, I'm not sponsored by GHQ. It'd really be cool if I was. But GHQ, if you're watching, please. But really, I just love games, and again, this has been a project I've been working on a long time, and so I'm just happy Black Horses is finished and ready for purchase now, and I just want as many people to be playing as possible, because it's a lot of fun. So, we're ready. Let's go back to our map. I'm actually going to take this into a separate tab so I can switch between these guys. The cats sound like they're doing their business. Okay. So, here we are. We've got our stuff. Whoops. Okay, so we've got our guys. We can go ahead and delete this infantry here. For right now, no, wait, hold on. Don't delete that. I need those guys. Okay. So, we're going to say, what is the cargo capacity of the Bradley? Let's make sure, let's check that first, actually. Let me see. Cargo capacity for a Bradley. Okay, let's see here. Cargo capacity for Bradley, because this will actually determine how this works. Okay. Infantry fighting vehicles, Russian, lots of Russian. Here we go, American. These are M2 Bradleys. What did I say? M2A3 Bradleys. Okay. With TOW 2Bs, right? Yes. Yes, and I don't think... What is the difference between these two? Cargo capacity. Okay. I said it's an M2A3, right? Yep, okay. So the car, because it's an infantry fighting vehicle, not a reconnaissance vehicle. I'm glad that they made that distinction there, because that is a real difference between the M2A3 and the M3A3 Bradley. It's how much cargo capacity, because the M3A3 is a reconnaissance variant with enough room for a reconnaissance scout team, basically, reconnaissance scouts to disembark from, whereas the infantry fighting vehicle version of it has a cargo level of 8 for actual infantry. So that means that this squad, in fact, can be carried by one Bradley. So that's cool. There we go. So let's get back to our map. We've got all this set up. So I'm going to keep the infantry just over here in the corner until they are ready to disembark. With the Denovians, that'll be different because they're set in position already. So we're going to have these guys right here. So I've got two different infantry. I've got one set of infantry here and then one with an AT system. So where do I want to place these guys? Let's see here. If I were them, where would I want to place an AT system in here? Let's go ahead and maximize this so you guys can see it. Where do I want my AT system to go? You know what? Preferably, I'm going to want them on high ground, obviously. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to place them here overwatching this pass right here. So they're going to go ahead and... Let's see, do I want them on the east side of the pass so they can funnel them in, or... Yeah, actually, I'm going to place them right here. I'm going to place them on the top of this mountain right here. Yeah. So let's see, where's my AT system? There they are. We're going to place these guys right here. Yeah, right there. So that they can provide overwatch and fire essentially on anyone coming in through here. Let's turn snapping off. I hate snapping. So this way they can fire on anyone coming through here trying to head to these passes right here. Not bad. I mean, not the most ideal place, but at the same time, you know, it'll work for our purposes here. And then the other infantry, I will keep with them as support, so they're not just lonely by themselves here. Okay, let's go ahead and... We're going to put them on the opposite mountaintop. Yeah. Again, they're forward security, essentially. They're going to have one BMP close to them. I'm going to say, let's see here, one BMP, because again, we're going to be set up in a defense already. I know well, no, we said it's a movement of contact. So you know what? Let's keep this clean and let's keep it as a movement of contact then. So let's assume that the two infantry units are being carried by the two BMPs, White 1 and White 4 in this scenario. So we're going to go ahead and move these guys back. And they're going to be hanging out just over here until the BMPs have them dismount. So this way we can go through dismounting and mounting techniques as well. Okay, so we're going to start here and start here. So now we can go ahead and start playing our game. So again, we've got the sequence of play here, let me go ahead and just make this so you guys can see it. Our sequence of play right here. So our sequence of play are these 6 steps. Not 6 steps. I can read. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 steps. These 8 steps right here that each round consists of. So we did our round 0, our sequence of play 0 pre-game organization. Did that for almost an hour, but again, explaining it very slowly. Number 1, posture determination phase. So now we need to see we need to roll our cohesion, then we need to start rolling our initiative. So we're going to go ahead and roll our cohesion. And there are rules for determining your own cohesion based on scenario. So I found that this was probably the most confusing part of this game, was figuring out exactly how and what cohesion was, like how that was determined essentially. So let's see here. Is it in? It's in the make your own scenario, isn't it? It is. Okay, which is I think kind of a weird place to put it. Again, one thing I probably complain about in this book is just how cohesion is determined. So, where did it go? Let me go. Here we go. So, they've got this on page 106 for those of you who get the book. Probably the most integral part of the game, and for some reason the explanation for it is on page 106 and not on page 1. Your cohesion is determined by a d20, and we're going to, and this also determines point values if you want stuff that if you want to have kind of more free-for-all and choose which units if you have a lot of units to pick from and not a specific scenario you're starting from, you can kind of pick and like, oh, I want this type of infantry, I want this type, and there's point value systems, so you can determine like basically how many points you have beginning to begin with to purchase units with. Because ours is a set value for scenarios, we're not going to be doing the point system, but it has the math to explain that. And of course, all the units have point values to them. So, so for troop quality, this will give us an idea of what our cohesion will look like. So, essentially, let me make sure here. So you have different types of classes of cohesion. So you have militia, which are allowed cohesion levels between 9 and 15. So you essentially really can't have lower than 9, but they can't be higher than 15, which is kind of a mid-range. Like they have some combat experience, but there's no real training, there's no real unit cohesion, there's no not a lot of modern technology or training with said equipment. So as it says, training is limited and haphazard. Any skill they develop comes at high cost paid in blood. Okay. So then next you have conscript forces. So backbone of 20th century warfare. Let's see here. Conscript forces are slowly evolving into professionals. Conscript armies may have cohesion levels between 11 and 16, so they're not allowed to be as low as a militia, and they have the ability of being a little higher, more cohesive than a militia unit. These numbers are actually quite low, due primarily to short duration of training period and the necessity of placing them in harm's way before they are fully acclimated to the rigors of soldiering. So, professional forces. This is what our units are going to be because they are professional armies. Again, they are based off analogous to Russian and American military in 2018. So for the United States Army, that's already well within our combat experience between the 2 wars that we've had in the past 2 decades. And also with plenty of modern reevaluation of training for near-peer threats. By 2018, we kind of revamped what type of doctrine we were looking at in the United States Army. And then for the Russian military, of course, this is already midway through the Ratnik program, of re-equipping and retraining and reorganizing the Russian army into brigade tactical groups instead of regiments. Very similar to the United States being brigade combat teams and instead of regiments as well. And being re-equipped with better equipment, getting more NCO training, things like that. So both of these armies, for our intents and purposes, are going to be considered professional. So professional armies, yeah, it explains what they are, but what we care about have cohesion levels will range between a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 18. Here we go. This is primarily dependent on whether the professional army is forced to expand rapidly due to wartime commitment or can maintain its standards of discipline and expertise. So, okay. So you can pick these specifically, like if you're trying to think like, what level do I want? But they also have a wonderful little table that you can just roll a d20 for, and that's what we're working up to. I just want to make sure you understand why. And then of course there are elites, which essentially are special forces, and so this should be very limited in your army. 14 to 22, so even above the regular cohesion. So, okay, let's see here. So we're going to have professionals. So we've got our little table right here, for professional units. So let's go ahead and roll our 2d20s. Let's start rolling. So an hour into this, we've gotten through our pre-planning phase, and we can go ahead and start rolling some dice, some virtual dice, because I don't think you'll trust me if I roll these on the table and you can't see. So let's see here. Roll our d20. So we're going to go. I went alphabetically last time, so we're going to go reverse alphabetical. We're going to do Denovia first this time. So Denovia first. So we've got 10. Ooh, a base cohesion unit of 10 is not great. That's actually really low. So let's see. Oh, that's right. Let's check. Whew, that's right. I forgot that there's a table for this. So 10 is a cohesion of 16. So a roll of 7 to 14 is 16. Okay, not bad. It's kind of low for a modern army, but that's okay. That's okay. So let me put this in our tracker here. So our cohesion is 16. Okay, cool. We got that. Do I need to keep this? I also put it here so that this way I can make sure I know what we've got. Oop, there's my waifu mecha game background there. And some projects I'm working on. There we go. So, let's go ahead and roll for Atropia now. D20. Wow. Jeez, 20. Okay. Cohesion of 18, so much higher. Wow, they kind of lucked out on that. And again, if you wanted to make this analogous, again, it kind of makes sense. Again, the Atropians are based off the modern United States armor with a lot of combat experience. And the Denovians are based off the current modern Russian military, which is some combat experience, but a lot of upheaval going on while integrating the Ratnik program. So a lot of upheaval and a lot of trial and error of feeling out how these new programs are working. Whereas the U.S. is already, again, just recently ended the longest war in its history. So as kind of a, not really a side note, but I've said this in my other streams as well, if you know any veterans, give them a call. Make sure they're okay, because this is a weird time. Something I think all veterans kind of expected would happen. Obviously, we'd pull out of Afghanistan someday, but I don't think anyone expected quite this messy. And not going to bring in politics because we're playing a game right here, and we're not going to do that. But essentially, just care about the people that actually invested blood and pieces of themselves there. Whether you agreed with it or not, just give them a call. Make sure they're okay, because a lot of people are definitely reevaluating a lot going on because of what happened. So just make sure everyone's all right. That's what matters. People matter. So make sure people are okay and help with people any way that you can. So now that we've rolled our cohesion, and we've put it here as well, Atropia's cohesion is 18. So they're very cohesive. They're up there, man. They're at the almost the higher level. They're at the max level of cohesion for a modern army. So we're going, now that we have that, we can go ahead and do our initiative. So let's give it to Atropia first. We'll just alternate. So Atropia, Right now, they have a cohesion of 18, so their initiative is 2d6 plus their cohesion. So let's go ahead. 2d6 plus cohesion for Atropia. Wow! Oh my god. That's like, geez, that's literally the best roll they could have gotten. That's 2d6s, that's 12. So 12 plus the highest, wow, okay. Today the dice are very much favoring Atropia, which as a Denovian, I'm not particularly pleased about. But again, there you go, this is the dice roll. So okay, wow, 12 plus 18. So, geez, 12 plus 18. I can do math, but there you go, there's 30. Okay, so we've got 30 right there. Wow, okay. That's something. Cool. So there's their cohesion. Let's go ahead and get Atropia's combat slant in here while we're here. So they have, what do we have on the board? We have 1 Abrams, 3 Bradleys, and 1 troop of infantry, 1 squad of infantry. So we're going to go ahead and say their slant, their combat slant is a 1 MBT, 3 BMP, or 3 Brads, and 1 infantry. So even just so I know what it's saying, I'm just going to put infantry just so I know. Okay, cool. And then Denovia is a 2, 2, and 2, actually. Okay. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and roll for Denovia's initiative. So that's 2d6. Okay, not bad, not bad. So 6 plus 3, that is 9 plus their plus, so 9 plus 9 plus their cohesion, 16, 25. Okay, not bad, but obviously they're a little behind on this. So all right, cool. Let's go ahead and start then. Now that we've got everything going. So now we are now in turn 1. Cool. So now we are in turn 1. Let's go ahead and let's do this then, shall we? So now that we've rolled for our initiative, the next phase is the joint artillery phase. If we had any artillery firing, this is when it would begin to fire. Not when it is being plotted, this is when it begins firing, because in Modern Micro Armor, artillery fire, a fire mission lasts the duration of the turn. So 3 minutes, it lasts all 3 minutes. So that this way there's an opportunity for people to accidentally move through it or to move out of it if they need to. No one is firing artillery at this point, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the next sequence of play. So sequence of play 3, first standard fire phase. Tech level 4 and 5 stands may fire. Again, looking at our chart, most of our units are tech level 4, except the, that's not right, B&P tech level 5, that's not right. That should be a 3. Let me just make sure on that, because pretty sure that's a tech level 3, because that was the example I was going to bring up of not everything is a tech level 4, because BMP 2 with AT5 is a tech level 3. Yeah, I don't know where that 5 came from. So that means that during these turns, the BMP does not have an opportunity to fire. Tech level 4 and 5, so our T90s are 2 S19s technically, but they are off map, so they're going to fire during the joint artillery phase. And our infantry can technically fire, but the AT5 cannot during this round. So basically it's not prepared to fire. So interesting how that's going to work. So small arms, yes. AT5, no. So since no one is within range or visual sight of anybody right now, there's not going to be any firing going on. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next round, to the next sequence, which is the second standard fire phase, which is all stands. So now any tech level can fire, but again, there is no line of sight or anybody within range right now. They are many, many, many meters away from each other. They are, yeah, almost 5K away from each other over mountainous terrain. So yeah, that's that dog's not gonna hunt. So now the joint plot phase. So to plot artillery. For artillery, again, because these are Generation 4 militaries, they do not need a forward observer plotting for them and a forward observer observing where the rounds hit. However, I want to make sure that this is correct because this is fairly important. So let's go here to indirect fire. So, okay. Let me see. Minefields, direct, indirect fire. Okay. I just want to make sure because this is there is a rule regarding how you fire and making sure that people are not essentially metagaming and placing it where they're not actually able to observe enemy, but they know you're there, so they're firing it. So that is why I want to find the exact rule so that this way I can make sure that it is clear. Let me see here. Artillery fire general. I want to find that. This is 6 guns. Sheath closed. Open. Extended. Okay. Okay. From the firing stand, let me see here. I just want to make sure. Just give me one moment, please. Okay, because I found part of it, but I want to make sure that that's all of it. Okay. Indirect fire. Okay. Got 30%. Okay. Okay, so essentially the biggest thing here is, let me read it to you. So, it says right here, there must be a clear line of sight from the firing stand to every location covered by a sheaf pattern. You may not use sheaf patterns to fire on stands that would not otherwise be legitimate targets. This compromise was included to prevent bad sports from taking advantage of an early loophole in the rules to fire on stands completely hidden by woods or buildings and therefore not legitimate targets. They did this by calling fire into clear terrain and setting the sheaf to extend into the woods several inches to strike otherwise invisible targets. A severe beating usually puts a stop to this sort of behavior. So, avoiding the beating of anyone, I'm just telling you right now, again, because because we do not have forward observers, let me make sure on this too, because it mentions it about the FOs, but essentially because we do not have any forward observers, dedicated forward observers, and because in real life, the practice of calling artillery onto somewhere where you can't see is extremely frowned upon because you cannot see the impact, you cannot observe the impact of the rounds and get and tell the results of the artillery of the fire mission to higher. Essentially, you need to have some sort of observation on the on where you're firing. So, I just want to make sure, because they talk about FOs. Let me see here. Where does it talk about the FOs? Because I want to make sure that this is just very much understood. Okay. 712. Let me see here. Okay, let me see. Let me see here. Yeah, so basically, yeah, you just don't need an FO For generation 3 or higher, indirect fire will arrive 1 turn after the plot turn and does not require an FO. So we don't require an FO because we're generation 4. However, I am still requiring that there is some sort of observation on the target, because just firing and saying, I'm going to fire artillery into here is a little silly unless it's a pre-planned mission. So I'm allowing my players to do pre-planned fire missions into areas that they cannot observe, but they have to make those plans beforehand before the game starts. But we're not doing that right now. We're only doing planned targets as the game progresses. So there's no joint plotting right now because neither of these teams have direct observation on enemy personnel. So movement phase. Now we finally get to do something during our first phase because no one's shooting at each other. So roll on the command efficiency table for the number of movement orders, and then alternate executing moves with opportunity fire if available. And then after all the ordered movement, execute independent moves. And then during this time, people might move through artillery, etc. So our movement. So again, the initiative goes to Atropia. So Atropia's movement orders are determined as such. So for the command efficiency table, it is a 2d6. So let's roll a 2d6 for Atropia to determine how many movement orders, how many legitimate orders it can give to move to its units. Okay, 8. So we go and follow the table. Let me just get this thing going. That's why I don't do that. Oh, because it's Control 2. That's why. That's why I've just been using the mouse, because sometimes I forget my macros, my hotkeys. So command efficiency table right there. So we rolled an 8. So the 8. Well, as you can see, the cats are really enjoying this too. Yeah. So the 8 means that they get 2 ordered movements, but there are also generation modifiers because, again, different generations of armies have enough training and equipment to offset this. So because these are both generation 4 forces, they have 2 additional movement orders. So that is 4 movement orders. Okay. And because the headquarters units, you should specify this beforehand. I am doing so with the naming conventions. As you can see, I have White 1 right here. Let me move this guy to the select. White 1, the platoon leader for the Denovians, he is the one giving the orders right now. And Red 1 here is the other platoon leader on the Atropian side. So they are the headquarters elements as per basic army doctrine, naming convention doctrine. They are the platoon leaders, with their 4s as the platoon sergeants, who are next in the chain of command, followed by the 2s and the 3s last. Okay. Let's get to it. So, now that we have our movement, so we have 4 movement orders for the Atropians. Again, this is just for tracking purposes. So Atropia has 4. Okay, they have 4 movement orders. Okay, so that means that, again, in the standard play of this game, each unit is 1 platoon. I like to play in the smaller scale, so I am intentionally altering the rules in this manner, in so much that just which units are represented. It's not a huge rule change. Essentially, instead of an HQ giving commands, like a company headquarters giving commands to 3 different platoons, and you have like the Bradley and then like 3 tanks, and that's however you have it for your headquarters element, and then your 3 tanks being your 3 platoons. I like to actually play the platoon fights and the company fights at scale. So, because that's kind of where I was in the army. I was a lieutenant and a captain, so that's the level I like playing at. So each of these is going to be representing a crew instead of a platoon. And the orders are going to be coming from the platoon leader, so still from the headquarters to the platoon leaders. and we're going to go ahead and move each unit individually. And again, because it's not representing a platoon, it is just representing the crew. So, not really difference. That's more semantics than anything. I just wanted to clarify that with my call signs and everything for anyone who plays Micro Armor on the level that each one of these is a platoon. This is not red, white, and blue platoons. This is all red platoon, and it's the individual crews because that's the level I want to play it on, but I don't really think it makes any major differences in the rules. So, we've got our 2 orders. So, we're going to go ahead. I didn't place these guys into any real formation, but the 2 unit is usually the lead vehicle. So, the 2 unit is going to go ahead and go first. So, we are going to now see if he, in fact, follows said command to move. So, we're using one of our movement orders of 4 to try to get our first vehicle, our lead vehicle, to move. So, that vehicle, give me 1 second here. So that vehicle is going to roll a d20 for a cohesion roll. 6. Okay, so a 6 for cohesion rolls, you need to roll at or below your cohesion level, your initial cohesion that you came up with, to see if you're successful in doing so. This is where if you have a low cohesion, you have a much higher chance of not accomplishing said task. If you have a very high cohesion, like the Atropians rolled, where they have 18 as their base cohesion level, pretty much most things they can execute. There's only 2, on a 19 and a 20 are the only times that they will not be able to execute whatever you're asking them. So the odds of them executing what you're asking them to do is very high because they're probably going to do it. So, let's go ahead and continue movement. So, he rolled successfully, so that is a 6. There are some modifiers to this. Because he is part of the platoon where the headquarters is attached to, he has a -2 bonus on that. So that is a cohesion level or cohesion roll of 4, which is really well below the 18 cohesion level that we have. So he's all good. He's fine. He's absolutely fine. So yes, he may move. So now, before we begin movement on this map, all of this open terrain is going to be considered rough terrain 1, which is a 1-for-1 point movement. So each square is 100 meters, and you can move freely across the 100 meters with your movement point. So there is no penalty. All of these wadi systems and the paths leading through said wadi systems, up these, basically up the draws on these ridges, anything up these draws is going to be considered rough terrain 2. So that has its own penalty. Again, they provide an excellent little chart here of the different type of terrain. So we're talking about the rough terrain. Let me just move my fingers here. Rough terrain 1, 2, and 3 right here. So rough terrain 1 is a track unit, 1-for-1. Rough terrain 2 is 2 points per inch of movement. So your movement is halved during that section. And any of the spurs on these ridgelines, so any of these parts, so if you try to cross over from one wadi to another, that is going to be considered rough terrain 3 because you're going up steep cliffs on either side and then rounding back over to the other draw. So you're trying to go over the spur of, so eventually if you know your terrain features, your spurs and your draws are like your fingers, like right here. So your draws are going to be these little pieces that move up towards the ridgeline here. So I guess we can kind of do this. These are going to be your spurs, all of these sticking out, and your draws are going to be the positions in between going up. So your spurs and your draws. So your draws are going to be, if we use our hand as an example, the top of this, where it is flat, is rough terrain 1. Going up and going in between the spurs, so up in the draws, through the wadis, through the paths, is going to be considered rough terrain 2. And trying to cross over is going to be considered rough terrain 3 because it's very steep and very rocky and there are no paths. So that is how this is going to be laid out, and that is going to be used to determine all of our bonuses and penalties for movement. So since our Abrams made a successful roll, we now get to see how far he's going to move. So let's see here. We've got how many units of tracked movement for the Abrams. 20. So he has 20 points of track movement. So he can move pretty far. He can move very far in that time. He can move 2 kilometers, basically, in 3 minutes. Which, you know, if he's open and going down a road, yeah, he could. Again, you might not want to spend all of said movement points, but you have up to 20. And because this is a movement to contact, and he does not know where anyone's at, let's see. We're going to go up this time. We're going to go up this way. So we're going to go here. And again, Roll20 has this wonderful little, we're going to go up through here and here and here. So he's going to go just to the mouth of this. So they're going to try to move through towards this ridgeline through here this time. So he's going to move right here, and with his movement, he is going to be able to make it right about her. So we're going to go ahead and place him. We're going to go ahead and orient him because he is facing this direction as he comes out of the pass. So now we have 3 more ordered movements. So we have enough for the rest of the platoon, essentially, because the infantry is currently mounted in one. We're going to say he's going to be in red 3 because he's kind of the off. He's not one of the leadership Bradley, so we're going to say the infantry is in red 3 for right now, okay? So everyone, red 3. And actually, so I don't forget, this is what we have a marker for. So I'm going to put red 3 right here on Atrobia, and I'm going to say in for dismounts. Dismounts. So this way I know that he has the dismounts. And for the Denovians, our 2 BMPs are going to have them. So we're going to have white 1 and white 4. Dismounts. Dismounts. So this way, there is no confusion as to where these dismounts are right now. And they are mounted beforehand, so they're already in the vehicles. Okay. So we've got that. All right, so we've used one of our movement orders. We still have 3 more, so let's go ahead. We're going to say next in the order of movement is going to be the 1 unit, so the platoon leader. So he's going to see, let's see if he rolls his cohesion roll. D20. A 5. He is the platoon leader, so he is attached. He is the headquarters unit. So minus another 2. 3, well below the 18 cohesion level. So yes, he may move. A Bradley has a movement of right here, 16 track. Now, I'm not going to always keep referring back to this page. I do have these main things here labeled via Roll20. So I have their AP value, their defense value, and their tracked movement, and their movement values here. So we're not going to worry about that too much. So, alrighty. So we're going to go ahead, and he's got how many? He's got 16 tracked. Again, this is all rough terrain 1, so it's going to be a 1-for-1 movement. So he's going to go ahead and follow. Oh, he can't even make it that far, actually. Yeah. He's actually further behind than I thought. Okay, so he's actually only going to be able to make it to the edge of here. He's going to make it to the edge of the mouth of this little valley here. So let's go ahead and move him. He made that movement successfully. Let's orient him in a direction that makes sense. So here. All right, cool. They have 2 more movement orders. So now we're going to move next in the order of movement. We're going to go ahead and move 4, the platoon sergeant. So let's see here. 3, minus 2 because he's attached to the platoon. The head and the platoon leader's still alive. Yeah, that's a 1. Well, but that's pretty much as low as you can get from the cohesion level of 18. So yeah, so that is the nice thing about having such a high cohesion level. These things at a professional level for a professional force, the moving is not a challenge at all. It's almost a given. But again, something may happen. Someone's not paying attention. Someone's disorganized or suppressed, which we will get to later once the shooting starts, and it will add penalties to that, so they are not able to. He can't bypass here, so he's just going to go ahead and sit. What is it? He's at 13. He's going to go ahead and sit about 200 meters behind the platoon leader. So right here, right around this bend here is what he's going to sit at. And I said that was going to be the 4. So it's well within his movement. He made the cohesion roll, so he's not having any issue with this at all. Whoa, whoa, whoa. He's facing the wrong way. Let's get him facing the correct direction. There we go. And there's There he is. We're going to move him right here just so I can see him. Yeah, just so I can see what direction he's facing. Okay. Yep, we're going to put him right there. Okay. And then red 3. Let's see if red 3 makes his movement. 5. Yep. Still part of the platoon with the platoon leader alive. That's so -2 off of that. So 3. Well below the 18. He moves. So again, this is the nice thing is that all of these vehicles move very easily. So again, we're not even going to measure because I know it's well within his 16 movement points here, and it's no difference in terrain, and he's not going to be able to bypass. So he's going to be taking up the rear here, so let's go ahead and move him. And he's going to sit right around here. He's going to go ahead and sit here, about 200 meters behind the 4, and he's going to be oriented this direction. Okay, so I already made a small mistake in this. Again, do as I say, not as I do, I suppose. We technically should have been alternating these movements. I get into it because finally people are able to move. Technically, you're supposed to alternate in between, and I did say that earlier. That is kind of one of the things that initiative is kind of loose, kind of loosey-goosey in this game because you do alternate. So we'll go ahead and move through all the Denovians this turn, and then next time we'll remember to do the alternating movement. So let's go ahead and determine our order movements for our Denovians. So 2d6. 7, so let's look at our table. So a 7 is 2 orders. They are a Generation 4 army, as we discussed, so that's 4 orders. So they got the same amount of orders as the Atropians. So again, for the sake of tracking, we're going to go ahead and put this here. They have 4 movement. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's go ahead, and again, we'll move basically in the same order. We're going to start with our 2 vehicle, our T90, our lead T90 here, and he's going to roll his D20. 13. Okay, so now we're getting a little closer. So remember, the Denovian cohesion was 16, 2 points lower than the other than the Atropian. So 16. This is 13 minus 2 because of the platoon leader attached and still alive. So 11. 11 is below, but as you can see, if that had been a couple points higher, we may not have been able to move. Something simply didn't happen. You can chalk it up for role-playing wise. You can chalk that up to communications issues, or simply just they're not ready to move, or what have you. So the white 2 has a movement of 16, so the T90 has 16 tracked. So we're going to go a little bit slower than the Abrams. So we're going to go ahead and move this guy 16. And all of this still is rough terrain 1. So none of this is really any issues. Okay, let's see here. Where do I want him? Let's see here. 16. He could move out to about here then. Okay, you know what? He's going to go ahead, and because they know that they've got to defend this ridgeline here, he's going to go ahead and make kind of a straight line for this system here. However, because we've got some hills here, if he tries to cross directly over, that's going to be rough terrain 2. So we're going to go ahead and continue just following the path so he stays. Okay, so he's going to make it right about to this crossroads right here. Okay, so right about there, right around here. So we're going to go ahead and take our white 2 here. Yep, and we're going to move him to about, where did I say? Right around here. Okay. Yep, right around here. And he's going to orient himself here. Okay. So let's move. So then we would be alternating these turns, but because I messed that up, we're going to go ahead and just move through Denovia's turns here. So next is going to be the white 1. So let's roll our D20 and see if he moves. Ooh. Okay, so 18. So base level cohesion, this does not pass. However, because it is the platoon leader and he is the headquarters unit and he is alive and he's attached to this platoon, -2, 16. That is their cohesion. So as long as it is their cohesion or lower, they successfully move. However, this could have very easily gone wrong So he's got a movement of 14. So let's see, where can he move up to? Not as far. So he's going to go ahead and move up. You know what? He's going to move up to here because he's going to want to place this. He's going to want to get this infantry off. He's going to want to get them dismounted as quickly as possible. So yeah, he's going to move. Yeah, even following the trails, he's going to be able to move right around here. So right here, he's going to move right about. So that's white 1. He's going to move right about right here. Okay, so there he is. He's all happy. As happy as a platoon leader ever is. He's going to be orienting. He's going to be making sure that he's got his, he's facing the correct direction. There we go. Cool. Let me just check something on dismounting infantry if that happens during the movement phase. Let me see. Dismounting and mounting. Right here. Okay. Here is called dismount. It requires the expenditure by both the transport. Okay, transport stand, which is to dismount in any given turn in any stands. Oh, yep, he's going to do it next turn because they have to give up. Transports have to give up 50% of their movement in order to dismount. Okay. 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 Alrighty, cool. Okay, yeah, same. So they're not going to dismount this turn because he's out of movement points, but next turn it will cost him half of his points and half of the points of the infantry to move, to properly dismount from their vehicles. So, okay, cool. So the infantry are not going to come into play yet. So let's go ahead and move to white 4 and roll our cohesion roll. 8 minus 2, 6. Yep, that's below 16, so he moves. He's got a movement of 14, so let's see where he moves to. He's going to move. We're going to go ahead and try to bound. Well, he's got the other infantry, so he's going to follow the platoon leader right now to dismount this infantry. So he's going to go ahead and move right around here. So he's got plenty of movement to do so. Yeah, he's not going to try to dismount right now because he wants to get all the infantry up on this hill because that's where they're just going to want an ATA GM that can kind of reach out in any of these directions. Not that they can really fire here because this is going down into a depression. Although they might be high enough, so we may have to see. So let's see here. So yeah, so the platoon sergeant is going to move right here. That's well within his movement range, so we're not going to bother measuring it necessarily. Okay, he's fine. He does not have half of his movement point still, so he's not going to dismount his infantry either. Okay, and then white 3, because again, they had 4 movement orders, so there was plenty for all of the units here. So, let's say here, D20. And a 10, minus 2, 8, yep, below 16. So he can move. He has 16. Let's see where he goes to. Let's see here. Where does he go? 16. He's going to go ahead and move up here, I think. He's also going to go ahead and take up the flank here. So yeah, I think he can make a pretty close to straight shot through this. Yeah, we're going to get him, and he's going to go right around. He's not going to be quite there yet. So he's going to get here, but he's not going to be oriented the correct direction yet. He's going to be still traveling. So let's go ahead and move him. This here, and he's going to be right around here. So he did not quite move yet. He's still oriented kind of in the incorrect direction right now. So he's still traveling. Okay, and there we go. We don't have any unordered movement because there's really no need for it right now. We've got plenty of movement points and we covered all of our units, so I have no interest in moving any of these units otherwise. No, we're going to try to finish up white 3. That's what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to move him into position. So we're going to roll an unordered movement, which 1 per group. Because we're only playing with a single platoon here, I'm going to count this as 1 group. If we had multiple platoons, so 8 vehicles, then I would allow this 2 different ones, and there would be 2 different sets of orders for those movements. So again, with more units, this game becomes a little bit more complicated. That's why I like playing at max company level and kind of tiered introduction of more vehicles. So this way you're not getting overwhelmed. And also playing with a tracker, so this way you know what's going on. So, we're going to go ahead and try it to do an unordered movement because he's not quite ready to move. Or he's not quite in position yet, and he has, unlike the Atropians here, he has still the ability to move because it's not necessarily that he's being blocked by anybody. So, he's going to move. We're going to roll a d20, and this one comes at a penalty of, I believe it is +3 for unordered movement. Let me make sure so I can not lie to you. Combat movement. Okay. Let me see here. Let me just see. I thought movement was a little earlier in the game. There it is. Okay, movement. So let's see here. Once you've used up your orders for the phase, you may attempt to move groups independently. Any group that tries to move without a movement order is attempting to move on its own initiative. Any group qualified to move that has not yet moved in the phase. So it already has moved, so we cannot do that actually. Okay, cool. Now that we know that. So he can't finish up his move because he has already moved this time. So it's reserved specifically for people who failed to move the initial time. Okay, so this is our first movement. So now we move on to the next sequence of play. So the next sequence of play is 3rd standard fire phase for all tech level 5. There's the Bojan Gamer right there entering screen off to the side. So nobody's in line of sight yet, so there is no firing yet. So now we move on to marker removal phase, and this is the phase in which you determine, again, once firing begins, suppress or disorganized statuses can be attempted to be shaken off. Essentially, a crew, or in the rulebook, a platoon attempts to kind of bring itself back together, and you try to remove if there is an issue with headquarters, like you've lost a headquarters. This is where you, in the next turn after losing a headquarters, you can attempt to regain your headquarters. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into, we are now in turn 2. Okay, turn 2. Cool, so nothing, we've moved a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and go through this a little faster. So we're going to keep the same initiative, so Atropia still has the initiative. Nobody fired artillery last time. No one plotted artillery fire last time, so there is no artillery phase. They still cannot see each other exactly because there's still a lot of terrain in the way, and I know this, but I will show you very quickly. The biggest reason for this is because of this ridge line right here that I'm drawing across, and I will mark it too. All of this is a ridge line right here. So all of, basically, let me try to do this the nice way. So all of this essentially are ridge lines that you can't quite, you cannot just see over. You're essentially looking over the enemy, and they are in a depression moving up, and you are in high ground above them, but it is they're also not to the edge of this terrain yet either. They're still set within. This maybe becomes a little bit more apparent once we look at the map version of this, the topographic map. As you can see here, again, this ridgeline neatly follows this little line right here. And of course, there's a separate one too going down that way. But as you can see here, this is all a ridgeline that really cannot be, honestly, it even kind of just goes this way. Essentially, you can't really see beyond that. So right now, they're in a depression. Yeah, they're in a depression at, let's see here. That's 2,200, that's 2,000, so that is a 200-meter difference, so 3, 4, 5, so there's let's see here. So that's 2,000, 2,100, 2,150. Let me see, 2,150. Not quite. Let me see. And the fifth one. So that is 40, 80, yeah, 20, 60, 100. Okay, so each one of these is about 400 meters in between. So right here, this lead tank is, yeah, he is 400 meters below this ridgeline. That is a significant drop below. That is a quarter of a mile below the ridge line's elevation. So yeah, you can't see that from the ridgeline. You cannot see that. Yeah, that's really something. So yeah, none of these guys can see each other, and especially here with this right here, this figure right here. This is 2,400. It's a little hill right here that stands higher. Maybe from here you might actually, because 2,000 is 400 meters below you, that would put this guy 800 meters below. So an additional 400 meters. You might almost be level here to where you can see, because you are at level with the 2,200, and then I don't know, you still couldn't see because it's 200 meters higher. 200 meters higher. This is 400 meters low, so you're kind of the difference between it, if you're just doing kind of that math, is still another 200 meters. So now he is 200 meters still below where you can kind of see, because you're raised up in elevation. But either way, the point is no one can see each other right now. And I know this because I'm familiar with this terrain in real life as well. So, but I also have the topographic map there so that this way I can look at it too. And again, when you're on a physical terrain model, this is much easier to visualize. Okay, so let's get back to our movement phase. So the Atropians, let's go ahead and roll our 2d6s for orders. 11, okay, that's an extremely good roll. So 11, that's 4 plus 2. They have 6 ordered movements. Wow. 6 ordered movements. Okay. He really doesn't even need that many because everyone's going to be able to move. Everyone's going to be able to move with 4. But if he messes up, he still has 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and put it in our tracker. Again, just trying to keep this organized. Again, this will be easier once you have players keeping track of this. And again, it is for their sake, so that this way they can keep track of their movements that turn. But I just want to show you so that this way you can see the table in action. Okay, and let's roll the 2d6s for Denovia. 10. Let's see. 10 is 3 plus 2, that's 5. So there is a difference this time, but it should still be enough to cover all of their movements. So Denovia's movements are 5. Okay, let's go ahead and move these guys, and Atropia will go first and does not forfeit their initiative. They're going to keep that initiative. They're going to continue to go first. Because whoever has initiative has the option to allow the other team to go first if they would like. So that's why I think it's kind of silly to do initiative every single turn, because you alternate anyways, and you can just give it to the other person anyways. Correct me if I'm wrong. If that's kind of weird, please let me know if you play Modern Micro Armor or World War II Micro Armor, and if that's like, no, you should do initiative each turn, please let me know. I just think it's easier to keep the same initiative because I don't think it changes too much. So, we're going to go ahead and move Red 2. He has, again, 20 tracked points of movement. Let's see here. I want to kind of get into an engagement pretty fast here. So we're going to go ahead. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and try to move up. Let's see, what do I want him to do? We're going to go ahead and move up here. But he's going to move here and provide overwatch for them, for the rest of the group. Because the rest of the group is kind of falling behind. So he's going to go ahead and not use all of his movement points. But he is in fact going to move from here to here, which is 400 meters, well within. So let's do his d20 to see if he moves on the command. So we're using one of our, what did I say, six order movements. So let's see, cohesion, d20. 15 minus 2 because the platoon leader's still alive. Yeah, 13, well below the 18. So he makes his move. He's going to move right here, and he's going to go ahead and orient this direction to provide overwatch. So he's got some cover from the northeast here, while he can provide overwatch into these two separate draws here. Okay, Denovia's turn. We're going to go ahead and move our... We're going to have White 3 try to finish his movement. So White 3, we're going to try to roll a d20. 10 minus 2, 8. Yep, he successfully completes his movement. Also, because he is not moving anywhere near his 16 tracked points, he's going to go ahead and finish his movement here, and he is going to reorient himself into here so that he can see down kind of this draw right here, into here. Okay, cool. Back to Atropia. Red 1 is going to attempt his movement now with a d20. Oh, 1. Yeah, he's fine. I'm not even going to do the math. That's a negative 1. So he's fine. So he's got all 16 points of movement. He's going to use those points of movement. So let's go ahead and get the ruler. 16 points of movement. As long as he stays on the path here, it's not going to be anything but rough terrain 1. And he's going to kind of hug the wall here. And he's going to attempt to move. Let's see, which one do we want to move? He's going to attempt to move up into this wadi right here. Yep, so he's going to make it about halfway up into this wadi right here. So we're going to go ahead and move him right around here. Okay. And just orient him the proper way. There we go. Okay, back to Denovia. Move 2 of 5. Let's see here. We're going to try to dismount our troops now. So White 1 is going to use half of his movement to attempt to dismount his ATGM team, basically. So d20. 18 minus 2 is 16. That is the movement. That is the cohesion level of Denovia. So it succeeds, but barely. So again, this is getting very tricky. So he almost flubbed this, as the platoon leader usually does. So he has the opportunity to still use the other half of his movement, the other 7 points, once he's done dismounting. But we're going to go ahead and move the ATGM team off. And they successfully moved as well. And they are able to move 200 meters, half of their 400 meters. So 200. But this right here is going to be, like I said, going up and over hills like this is considered rough terrain 3. So let's see what rough terrain 3 does to foot movement. Rough terrain 3. Tracked unit, wheeled. Ooh. Yeah. So it's 3 points for every 100 meters. So they only have 2 points of movement. So because they already used half of their movement to get out. So they can move 200 meters in clear terrain. So they're going to move the first one. And then they're barely going to make it up to this line, basically. So they're not even to the top of this terrain. They did not make it. So they're about here. Okay, well, at least they're dismounted, but they're not set in position yet. Okay, back to Atropia. Their third movement order. I'm looking at the wrong screen here. The third movement order. So Red 4 is going to attempt to move as well. 12 minus 2 because the platoon leader is still alive and the headquarters is still attached. 10. Yep, he moves. Okay, and he's going to use all 16 of his movement. Let's just check to move up as well. And he's also going to follow the platoon. Okay, so he's going to make it right around here. So he's going to make it right around right here. So about a couple hundred meters behind Red 1. So right here, kind of like where this little high ground is. This little ridge is. So let's move him. Red 4 is going to make it right around here. And the one thing I don't like about Roll20 is that it loves to snap to grid. So you have to use Alt whenever you're moving anything to make sure it doesn't snap. But that's a small thing. Okay, so that is 3 of their 6 movement orders. Denovia has now moved 1, 2, so they're on their third movement order of 5, so third movement order. White 4 is going to attempt to move as well and dismount his infantry. So, d20. A 13 minus 2 is 11. Successfully moves. Okay, and we're going to dismount these guys. Same thing. They're only going to be able to move maybe 150 meters max. So we've got our infantry, and they're going to be moved like right here. They're like not even out. Okay. However, something I did forget to do on White 1's turn is he still had 7 points of movement. So we're going to go ahead and move him his last 7 points of movement to make up for last turn. And he's going to go ahead and move up to probably right here. He's just going to move up to right around here to the edge of this mountain. Right here probably, and he's going to orient himself right here. And White 4, now that he's successfully, he also still has 7 points of movement for this turn. He's also going to move, I think he's going to move past the platoon leader, and he's going to attempt to put himself in between 3 and 2. So he's going to start heading back the other direction. So he's only going to really make it here onto the road. So he was able to move, but not very far on his movement back. Okay? And he is moving this way. There we go. And he's moving that way. Okay. So that is now 1, 2, 3 of their 5 movements successfully completed. They still have 2 moves left. But now we are on the 4th movement of Atropia. D20. A 5. Yep, he moves. That is well below the 18 needed. The 18 threshold, so he's going to be able to move absolutely fine with 16 points of track movement. Because he doesn't want to smash up into red 4 here, he's going to just he's going to go ahead and stay, he's going to stand by right, kind of adjacent to red 2. Because he doesn't want to completely smash into red 4. He wants to give a little bit of space. Okay. And he's going to allow red 2 to re-enter the formation, I think. Okay. So that is 4 of their 6 moves. So we go back to Denovia, and we are now 1, 2, 3. We are now move 4 of 5. Let's move some of the infantry here, because all of these have moved already. And actually, a way of keeping track of this, which I have not been doing, is you can mark them. They suggest beads with their with the rule book. Here, they suggest green beads to show that they have moved. I'm going to go ahead and say green dots works just as well. So we have moved White 1. We have moved White 4. Bless you, cat. We have moved White 3. Okay, there we go. So, we still have White 2 and the 2 infantry. I'm going to say, because dismounting wasn't really their moves yet. No, I'm going to say it was their moves, because they get counted halfway. So they moved as well during this turn, essentially. So, the only person left to move is White 2 right here. He's going to move himself. Let's see, what does this terrain look like? Where does this wadi lead up? This path leads very roughly up here. This is a pathway. He's going to go ahead. He's going to put himself right here with this little ridgeline to his side, so that he's got cover here, but that he can still kind of engage any targets that come out of any of these wadis here. So we're going to see if he can move. A d20. 8 minus 2, 6. Yes, he does. So he's going to move right here, and he's going to orient himself so that he is kind of back to the wall here, and he's facing any of these guys right here. Okay, and he is now also successfully moved. So, because everyone successfully moved, we're out of movement points on both sides, and we don't have any movement on their own initiatives. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next sequence then. So the next sequence is the joint plot phase. Or no, it's the 3rd standard fire phase. No one has spotted anybody yet, so there's no firing going on yet. So then we're moving to marker removal phase. Okay, we'll remove the movement markers. Remove these guys that we just put on, but again, it's good habit to put these on. Again, all of this just to keep track of information is all what this is for. And I'm glad that I remembered part way through this so that this way we could see. Okay. Move all of these markers. No one is suppressed or disorganized because no one has fired yet or been fired upon. So everyone's kind of in the clear still. Okay, we are now in round 3. So now we move to here. We are in turn 3. There is no change on any of this yet. So let's go ahead and go through our sequences again. So we're going to keep the same initiative. Atropia is still going to be the lead initiative. Yeah. It does say phase. So I think you're supposed to do initiative each turn. But for the sake of this, we're going to go ahead and keep the same initiative just to keep this moving. Because it does say 2d6 plus cohesion. Highest total has initiative in this phase. Yeah, mark required stands or groups in movement posture. All of these vehicles are in moving posture because none of them have separate movement or firing postures except the ATGM with the separate AT5, the infantry basically. But they are in movement because they have not been set yet. They've only been sitting in a BMP and then getting off the BMP, so they have not been set in position yet. So they are not in a fighting position, in a firing position. They are in a movement position still. Okay, so phase 2 joint artillery phase. Nope, no artillery is firing. So phase 3, first standard fire phase. No one has seen each other, let alone the tech level 4 or 5, so no one's firing yet. And then phase 4, second standard firing phase. No one has seen each other yet, so we're back to movement again. Or hold on. Phase 5, joint plot phase. Again, no one has any observation on the enemy yet, so we're not going to be plotting any artillery yet. Then phase 6, movement phase. So let's go ahead and roll our commands again. There's mostly, during the early phases of these games, it's a lot of movement and not firing. Things really pick up once firing begins, because then you're getting a lot of different firing turns. So let's see here. D2d6 for Atropia, 7. Plus 2 blue, so that's 4 again. So let's go ahead and make sure we get that. Atropia has 4 this turn. Okay. And let's roll for Denovia. We're going to go ahead and start speeding this up a little bit. 3 and 4, that's 7. Plus, let's see here. So that's 7 is 2 plus 2, that's 4. So they both have 4 movement orders. So let's go ahead. Now that I've gone through this a couple times, we're going to move a little bit faster. So Atropia is going to move first. So Red 2 is going to attempt to re-enter the movement order here. So he's going to roll a d20. 13 minus 2, 11, he moves. Yep, so he moves successfully. It is not, all of his movement is not 20, it is not 2,000 meters of movement, so I'm not worried about that. Okay, so he has moved. Let's mark him as having moved. He has moved. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move white 4, d20. Let's see. 15 minus 2, that is 13. He successfully moves his 14 tracked points, so we're going to go ahead and just measure this out. He's going to try to stay on the trails here. Yeah, through here. Here. Yeah. He's going to attempt to move right here. So yeah, he's got plenty of movement. 800 meters of movement for his 1,400 meters. He's fine. So we're going to go ahead and move him. He is well within his movement right here, and we're going to reorient him. We're going to reorient him facing here, facing down the wadi. Let's see here. Yeah, he's going to be watching this wadi right here, so we're going to move him a little bit more this direction right here. There we go. Okay, cool. White one's kind of on his lonesome there, kind of wondering the wisdom of that decision. But hey, like, that's kind of replicating play of regretting kind of moving him there. We'll see. Okay, so then the next movement, we're going to go ahead and attempt to move red 1. D20. 16 minus 2, 14. Yep, below their 18, so he moves, but he is going to be moving through rough terrain. Let's see here. He's going to be moving up to here. It is, so we're going to say 3 squares. So for 3 points, it is 1 for 1, but now for the next... let's see here. For the next 2... Okay, so for the next 4 squares, it is going to cost him 8 points of movement. So 8 plus 3 is 11. He has... Let's see here. How many points does he have again? Is 16, right? Yeah, so 11 points of movement just to get to the top of this wadi, essentially. So, yep. So 11 points up to the top of this wadi. Okay, cool. There we go. Yep, it was at 7. So he's got 5 more points of movement. So he's going to move up to here. And when he gets to here, I'm going to call Opportunity Fire from the BMP, from White 1 Platoon Leader. So we're going to go ahead and move. And normally you do this once they move into that position. So, okay, he's moving, blah, blah, blah. And when you move him here, I'm going to say Opportunity Fire. And everyone stops, and you say who? White 1 is going to be firing on red 1. He has not oriented himself yet, actually. He just got out of this wadi. That he moved onto the road, and so White 1 is firing on red 1, and now we have now begun our firing. So let's go ahead. Let's mark red 1 real fast, though, to remind me that he is moved some. So he has moved, I believe, 14 of his 16 points, so you can move 200 meters after this. So, Opportunity Fire. White 1 is firing on red 1. Cool. What are you firing? I'm going to fire ATGM. Of course I'm going to fire ATGM, because I want something to actually die. Yeah, I'm firing ATGM. Yes, I'm going to fire ATGM. The hell with that. I made that decision. That's the call I'm going with. So, White 1 is going to fire on ATGM. Okay, now let's do standard fire procedure for this Opportunity Fire. Okay, so designate target stand, red 1. Designate the attacking stand, White 1. And check distance. Just shy of 900 meters. Okay, roll for cohesion. Here's where things get interesting. Let's see if White 1 screws this up or not. Let's see. Okay, because the last time this happened, the platoon leader totally whiffed this. Okay, he's going to roll for cohesion. White 1 is going to roll for cohesion. 8. Okay, so now this is where different bonuses come into play. Okay, so roll for cohesion. We did 8. Modified for fire. White 1's suppressed or disorganized effects. He is neither, so 0 on that. ATGM's tech level. Okay, he is firing an ATGM, so the tech level is 3. So the ATGM tech level, there are rules here. The ATGM tech level is, give me 1 Minuten, is this it right here? Nope, that's headquarters. There's a little table, so I'm looking for the table very quickly. The ATGM tech level is right there, cool. Is a tech level 3 missile. Yes, it's a tech level 3 missile, so it's a +2 onto this. So 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now we're at 10. Let's continue adding. And terrain. So the terrain is what you are firing into, not where you're firing from. Into. So he's firing into rough terrain 1, because I said all of this is rough terrain 1. It's slightly undulating, uneven, but it's not so much that it affects movement. However, firing, plenty of little hills and stuff to hide behind, micro terrain. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at the terrain, and for rough terrain 1, for firing, for personnel, it would be a +2, but it's not. It's an armored vehicle, so +1, because he can't really hide in little foxholes and stuff. So +1. Okay. And for armored vehicles, line of sight is not blocked. So for personnel, it is blocked. That's an important thing to remember later on, because that's going to make it very hard to engage infantry. So rough terrain 1 plus 1, so that's 10, plus 1 more, that is 11. So to make sure, we have the 8 that we rolled, 0 penalties for his suppressed and disorganized effects on white 1, because he has not been fired upon yet. For the ATGM tech level, because it is a lower tech level missile, add 2, so 8 plus 2 is 10. Firing into rough terrain is 11. Okay. So, let me see. Yeah, the range is later. Okay, so, he is now fired. ATGMs have a minimum firing range, I believe, of, let me double check this. That is anti-aircraft. I believe that they have a simple, give me a second. Oh no, they don't have any penalty. It says right here, duh. Yeah, I did read it. I did read the chart. Yes, it says range effect. ATGMs never suffer range effects except for minimum range limits. They have a minimum range of 1 inch, of 100 meters, to arm themselves, essentially. Okay, so he has now fired. It's 900 meters, well within range. So, and he made, so 11 is below the cohesion of 16. That hits. So, now we begin to roll for damage, and this is where things get interesting. So, the platoon leader did not screw this up. Congratulations, platoon leader. So, select appropriate attacker firepower value. So we are using the ATGM. I called it so because I don't believe in using the main gun on a BMP unless it's infantry, because you're not going to do anything. You might be able to kill a Bradley with it, but I don't trust that. I want to kill this, so I'm going to waste an ATGM on this. Some people might not. They want to save. They want to save this for tanks. But I'm not. I want to kill this. So ATGM. So this is where it's interesting. So his defense is 12 of the Bradley. The ATGM's penetration for the AP. Let's go ahead and check our chart. So BMP. AP value is 17. 17. Okay, 17 versus 12. However, he is not hitting the front glacis armor of the vehicle. This is where facing comes in. Aside from firing, when you're determining the defense value, basically bumper to bumper, from left track to right track is an armored vehicle is the front plate. That is where your main armor is. Anything outside of that does not, in this rulebook, the defense gets cut down by half. So, for facing, it is very unambiguous that where he is aiming right now is directly into the side of this Bradley. Because I just moved him and said, yeah, he'll move up on the right, and I said opportunity fire, so I stopped. He has not had an opportunity yet to turn and orient himself on the road because I did not move him that way. So there is no confusion in this that he is going to hit the Bradley in the side of the armor. So his defense gets cut in half. So it is not 12, it is 6. So the armor penetrating value of the AT5 is 17. 17 minus 6 is 11. That is your combat differential. In my modern micro armor, you have a combat results table. A combat results table that looks like this. This is the vertical axis and then the horizontal axis. The horizontal axis, as you can see right here, is your combat differential. So we are at 11. That is over the maximum allowed amount. So this vehicle is destroyed. But for the sake of going through the steps, I will show you. So it is a 11 combat differential. The other half is now the die roll. So let's roll 2d6. Okay, 7. And then we add our penalties for range and for terrain. Let me see here. Roll 2 6-sided dice. Modify the die roll for applicable terrain and range effects. Range, we already know, is 0 because it's an ATGM. It does not have any penalties. And terrain is +1 because it's rough terrain for an armored vehicle. So +1. So 7, 8. The vertical axis of this combat results table is the die roll. So 8 would put us here, and then these are your results here. But as you can see, we move all the way to the other side of the page because it is over 9. It is 11. So he is eliminated. That ATGM was extremely effective. So he destroys this red one. So let's go ahead and mark red one as having been destroyed, which I have a fun little smoke plume for that, actually. Okay, catastrophic kill. Go ahead and move this here. Okay, let me make this an image real quick, just for the sake of advance is a drawing. Okay, there we go. Let's maximize this so it's very obvious, and place it right on red one. So red one just got smoked. Red one, and remove his markers. He is dead. Red one just was eliminated. White one just fired, so we're going to go ahead and put his red as he is fired. Again, using beads is what this usually would be doing on the tabletop. So white one is fired, red one is dead. Cool. This is going to be very interesting. So now that he is dead, we now move to the opposite, the other turn, to move our next Denovian force. So our next Denovian force, white one is going to back up. That's what he's going to do. He fired. He's going to back up a little bit. So he's going to attempt to roll. D20. 12 minus 2, 10. He moves successfully. He's going to back up right here. And he is going to orient himself this way now. Okay. So he's now moved as well. He has also fired, and again, because of his tech level, that is the only time that BMP is going to fire this entire turn, because he fires only once. Because an opportunity fire may only be used if you have not used one of your firing turns yet. None of them have fired yet, so technically all of them have the opportunity to conduct an opportunity fire. But because he is tech level 3, he only technically gets one turn to fire each phase, so at least he made it count. Okay, so that was his movement. So now we're going to move these guys. Red 4 is also going to move up now because the platoon leader just got killed. So he's going to attempt to move. And this is where it's going to get interesting. Before we do this, let me read to see if there's clarification on this rule. So when you lose a headquarters element, which I stated at the beginning, red 1 and white 1 were the headquarters elements. You are not allowed to move, or it is considered a headquarters eliminated. Yeah, in the movement cohesion, no further orders allowed. So, because of this, there are no more ordered movements allowed, because the platoon leader just died. So he can no longer call for anyone to come back me up. Like, he was just saying, all right, let's start moving up here. He moved up and then got killed. So now all of these are going to be under their own initiative to continue moving because no one's answering red one's radio. So, let me take a drink of coffee real fast. Some tanker juice. So, Atropia does not have any order movements anymore. So they have one for the platoon. They have one on your own initiative order because it is one group of people. So, yep. So red 4 is going. We're gonna say red 4 is gonna attempt to move, but he is doing it at a penalty now. 12, and the penalty for a movement order without an order is +3. So 12 plus 3 is 15. Again, thank goodness that Atropia rolled very high on its cohesion. So they are professional enough and a well-built enough team to conduct this movement without an order. So you would kind of hope so. The platoon sergeant would be able to. So platoon sergeant is going to attempt to move his 16 points of movement up to here. So again, 5, and then we're going to count these as 2. So that's 5 plus, let's just try to keep these even numbers-ish so I can see 9. So 5 plus another 4, 8. 8 plus 5 is 13. So, yeah, 13. 8 plus 5 is 13. So he has 13. He has 3 more points of movement out of this. So he's going to see red 1 burning at the top of this, and he's going to crawl along the edge here, maybe 100 more meters, and he's going to stop right here at this square, at this point. So let's move him there. He's going to move right here, and he's going to orient himself this direction. I don't believe he has line of sight on white 1 right now, because I think this is high ground, and this is where you kind of have to, again, if it's on a physical background, this might make it a little easier. This is kind of hard. There is an indentation running right here. You can see it's still shaded here. And looking at the map, let's see. This is where, as the game master, you have to kind of say, I'm going to say that, again, these are ridge lines right here, so he's not quite out of the woods yet. He did not go up on the road here. He is hugging this, so I'm going to say he does not have line of sight yet, and neither does white 1. So, not quite yet. Because white one especially right here, he can see here, but then it gets cut short because he backed himself up, so he can't see here. Red 1, or red 4, can see directly here, but then when he gets to here, I'm going to say it cuts off right here because he's going to enter this hilly terrain right here. Again, rough terrain, like 2, because this is going through wadis and stuff. So, yeah, I'm going to say he can't quite see past here. So, no, but that also provides him cover. So, all right, he has moved. There we go. Genovia has not used all of its movement point yet. It still has 2 movement points. Now that we have engaged something here, he's going to call up for defense to reorient this direction. So, white 2, who is his wingman, is going to attempt to roll to kind of move and reorient himself to observe this. So, d20. 15 minus 2, because there's a platoon leader here, is 13. I can do math. 13. So white 2 successfully moves, so we're going to go ahead and move him. We're going to move him right here. He doesn't quite trust this yet. He's just going to simply move around the corner here, so it's only going to be about 300 meters of movement of his 1600, so I'm not worried about the movement. He's going to be here, and he's going to reorient himself here. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so he is now moved. Again, Atropia is out of movement points and is out of orders and out of their 1 allowed movement because they have not dismounted any infantry yet. So, yep. Okay, so then it goes back to Genovia's turn. That's 3. They have 1 more ordered movement for this platoon. So white 3, we're going to go ahead and move. No, we're not. Okay, yeah. So these dismounts are still technically part of the platoon. They are this platoon's dismounts. So we're going, don't do that. Don't move him. We're going to attempt to move the ATGM to the top of the hill to get it set. So, with their last ordered movement. So, 11 minus 2, that's 9. Yes, they make it. Again, now it's rough terrain 3. So, again, with the movement on foot, that is going to be rough terrain 3. Foot unit, 3 points per 100 meters. So they have all 4 of their movement points. So they're going to be able to move 130 meters, basically. So they're going to be able to move about a square. So let's see here. Let's see. Let's measure the distance. So 1.3, I believe. So let's see. Let's try to do the math. So they have 400 meters. They have 4 points of movement. Each 100 meters is 3 points. So they can move. Yeah, 130 meters. Yeah, about 133 meters. So 100 meters, and then a third of another 100. Okay, so I thought I did that math right. Say. So let's move from the center of them 1.3 squares. Okay, they can actually. It looks like they can make it to like the. They can just make it to the top of this ridgeline. Okay. Yep. They're going to move that. So they're going to move to the top of this ridgeline with all of their movement, and they are placed. Okay. Orientation, I'm going to have them, because it's kind of weird with the troops, I'm going to have them ordered this way, just so that they're facing the correct direction. So they're facing this direction, whichever way the ATGM is facing. Again, not my models. I would do a top-down of this so I can orient them so you can see, because we're using a top-down format, but these are from the side, so we're just going to have to deal. Okay, so he has moved. Back to Atropia, no movement orders. We have one on initiative movement left, so no orders. It's going to come with a penalty, but I'm going to try to move this other infantry team because they have not yet moved. So we're going to go ahead and D20 plus 3, 4, 3, 7. Yep, it's fine. Yeah, -2. Yeah, it's fine. They're all fine. Absolutely fine. They did really well on that. Okay, so they're going to be able to move also 1.3 meters. And they're going to go ahead and move just to provide local security with these guys. So they're going to move 1.3. They're going to move right here towards the center. Yeah. Yeah. Right in here. They're going to move right here just to provide local security. Right there. Okay. And there we go. And so our infantry has moved as well. Okay. They are still technically in a movement posture because they have not set yet. So they will not be able to fire this turn even if they could, because they just moved there. So that is all the movement. That movement has concluded. So now we move on to the next phase again. And the next phase is the tech level 3, I believe, the standard firing phase 3. Okay, only tech level 5 stands. We don't have tech level 5 stands. And so now we do the marker removal phase. So let's go ahead. This is also where we get to, let's remove the markers first and we'll talk about this. So movements are all good. They have moved. He has moved and fired. Okay. Oh, don't move him. Okay, marker removal, marker removal, marker removal. I believe that is everybody. Yep. That is Lottie, Dottie, oh, there we go, red form, everybody. Okay, so, at this point now, Atropia, who does not have a platoon leader, gets to designate who is going to be next in the chain of command. It is going to be red 4. They will next turn during the marker removal, so they'll have to do another full 3 minutes without movement orders. They, at the end of next turn, during the marker removal phase, they will be allowed to see if they can successfully perform a succession of command. So, we'll get to that. But I have now said who is going to get picked. It's red 4 is going to be the chain of command. So let's go ahead and go back to our tracker, and we are on turn 4. Let's make sure we keep everything up to date. So Denovia, white 1 no longer has the dismounts, so let's go ahead and delete dismounts here because they are now dismounted by themselves. Okay, and we'll put dismounts without this AT5 dismounts. And they have 0 ATGM rounds because they are now out of the vehicle. White 1 fired 1 ATGM round, so 5. Okay. Atropia. Red 1 is dead, so we're going to go ahead and just mark him red for the sake of clarifying so I don't get confused looking at this. And no one has fired any rounds yet. Okay. And they have... Okay. I think we are good. And we can change, well, that's just for the beginning slants. Anyway, so I think we're good. So let's go ahead and move back to here. So now engagements have begun. So now it's going to be a little bit different feeling of play here. So we're going to, again, phase 1, posture determination and initiative. I'm going to keep the same initiative. So Atropia has the initiative still. But, ignore the children outside. Korea. Now we are also going to be who is in. We're going to, especially for people who actually have a difference between set firing and movement postures, like artillery specifically, artillery and infantry, especially infantry. They are now set. So I'm going to say from now on they are in a set position. They're in a firing posture. They are not in a movement posture, so they cannot get up and move very quickly. Let me read through the rules to ensure that this is clear. Because again, this is my first time using infantry, which is why I wanted to go through this again in more detail. As you can see, this is already at 2.5 hours. But I want to keep playing because I want to make sure that this is for those people who want to know how to play this game thoroughly. Okay, let's see here. For posture, that is going to be at the very beginning, I believe. Let me see. Transporting, mounting, dismounting, movement, execution. Yes. Okay. Okay, just want to make sure. Okay. I just want to make sure that I'm doing, okay, so that's all that. So yes, it's at the very beginning. So, posture. 2 possible postures. The movement posture and the fire posture. All tech level 1 stands, artillery stands of any tech level, and towed weapon stands of any tech level must be in a movement posture in order to move, load, or unload. Any of the above stands not in the movement posture are automatically in the firing posture and may attempt to fire. No other stands are required to designate their posture. Okay. So I don't think the ATGM is technically included in there. Okay, so I guess he is in the firing posture now, and the infantry does not matter. So cool. They're all good. Okay, so they're ready to fire. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. So now that we have determined our postures and our initiative, joint artillery phase. No one has plotted any artillery yet, so nothing is firing yet. However, now that the engagement has begun, they may have observation on where rounds will splash, so I think fire missions will be coming soon. Okay, phase 3, first standard fire phase, tech level 4 and 5 stands. Okay, the BMP is not, the BMP and the ATGM are not tech level 4. The infantry are, but they're not going to be able to do anything to a Bradley. So, and then our T90s, no one sees each other, so there is no firing during this phase. Okay, 4th phase, second standard firing phase. All qualified stands may fire. Let me see. So, I want to see something. So, red 1 has the initiative as Atropia. I wonder if he can see this infantry. He might be able to. So I'm going to fire. Let's see here. Line of sight. This is where things get interesting, because firing into, and this may be really, really terrible for. Let me see. Okay. Is line of sight blocked? Rough terrain 3. This is interesting. Because technically it is, yes, is line of sight blocked. If a stand in this terrain has fired this turn, ignore cohesion penalty. Combat die roll effect remains in effect. I think line of sight firing out of it? That's strange though, because it's always about firing into terrain. Terrain type never affects stands firing out, only those firing into terrain. Okay. Alright, so. Yeah, so I believe they're blocked in line of sight firing into them. So he cannot fire on the infantry because he does not see them. They are within terrain that their line of sight is blocked. Like, he can fire, but it's not going to hit. So he can't see anything else. So we're going to move over to white one, or we're going to move over to Genovia. I want to fire with the infantry. Why not? So, let's see if they can see from here. I think they can, and they are 1,000. They're about 1.1 kilometers away, so that's a pretty far distance. But yeah, I'm gonna say fire. So we're gonna say HEGM dismounts are going to fire on red one with their HEGM. So we go through, designate the stand. Who are they attacking? Red one. Who's firing? HEGM, dismounted HEGM. Okay, check the distance, 11.5. So just shy of 1,150 meters. Okay, so let's go through our firing procedures. Okay, roll for cohesion. 6. Okay, so it is a 6 modified for fire S and D. They are neither suppressed nor disorganized because they were now fired upon by the Bradley because the Bradley's line of sight is blocked firing into rough terrain 3. He does not see them. HEGM's tech level. It is a tech level 3, so +2. So 6, 7, 8. And terrain. Firing into rough terrain 1, 9. So a 9 succeeds the cohesion level of 16 for Genovia. So the HEGM hits. Oh boy, this is interesting because I've never played with infantry before. So that whole thing that the Bradley could not see him, that sucks for the Bradley because he technically has line of sight, but because they are within rough terrain 3, because I designated this as rough terrain 3, his line of sight is blocked. And they have not fired yet. Because that is what it says, is that if they've already fired, ignore the cohesion penalty. So ignore the fact that the line of sight is blocked. So you can fire into them essentially because you've seen them fire. Awesome. Yeah. Because it's the same for grove, woods, heavy buildings, and light buildings. So essentially, if they have not fired, yeah, your line of sight is blocked. If they have fired, you can ignore the penalty, and because you kind of have an idea where they're firing from, and so your line of sight you can kind of shoot back basically. But because Atropia went first, he did not see. So yeah, so they successfully rolled that cohesion. Let's roll for damage then. So let's go ahead and look at our attacker firepower value. So it's the dismounted HEGM. So the dismounted HEGM is the AT5 dismounted, and that is a 17. 17 with a max range of 3,000 meters, 30 squares. He's well within that. And it was 17 minus the defense value of the target, 12. So this time it does not get that penalty that this Bradley got because he is orienting himself the proper direction because he is very worried about something hitting him. So he did not just drive out onto the road like the platoon leader did. So that defense stays at its full 12. There's no facing issues here. So 17 minus 12 is 5. So that is our combat differential. So that is going to be, again, our horizontal axis here. Okay, so that is our horizontal axis. So 5 plus 5. Okay, so now we do our dice roll. So let's go ahead, and so that you guys can see this again. Our 2d6. 8. So 8 Plus, again, we have to change, we have to add our other bonuses. So for range effects, there is no range effect on an ATGM, so 8, and applicable terrain, plus 9. Okay, so plus 9. So now we've got a 9 on the dice roll and a, what did I say, a 17, 12 plus, yeah, so a 5. Okay, so we have a 5. Let me go ahead and switch this back so you can see. We have a 5 on the combat differential, so plus 5. And on the horizontal, we have, what did I say? Let's look back at what the dice said on the 2d6. 8. And we have a plus 1 on that for the terrain, so 9. So 5 and 9. So 5, 9 is a D. So he is a disorganized mess. So this ATGM has fired. It did not kill this Bradley. However, it did disorganize him. So I have markers. They usually ask for a black marker for disorganized. I've got this little black and white one right here. So he's disorganized now. So any movement or firing is going to be under major penalties because basically the crew just got hit by an ATGM and they're trying to figure out what just happened. They're freaking out right now. That also leaves him open to get fired upon. So because they've now fired. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see how that works out for that ATGM team. And they, being a tech level 3, can only fire once per round. So let's see here. So he fired. He is disorganized. Okay. Can anyone else fire? They, red 2 and red 3, do not see anything yet. White 1 cannot see red 1 still. Neither can white 2, so no one can see. So really, it's just the ATGM that dismounted. So that will end our second standard firing phase. Okay, now it's time for joint plotting. So it's time for our joint plotting. So now we get to introduce artillery into this match. I think this is fair. So both of them are going to attempt to plot in artillery. White 1 is going to, so let's go ahead with the initiative. So red 4, having been disorganized, but he's going to attempt to plot. He knows that there is something coming up from these hills right now. He saw where it's coming from, and he knows that there's something here. So he's going to call for fire. So let's go ahead and let's find my markers. He's going to call for a linear fire mission across the kind of the top here. Okay, let's see here. Where is my linear target? Okay. So he is going to attempt to move this. And he's going to attempt to call it, I think, right. Let's see. He did see more or less where the ATGM came from, so he's going to call it right around. Okay, so let's see if he calls it shy or not. That's what I'm curious about. So we're going to go ahead, and for the sake of this, we're going to roll a d20. And we're going to say anything 10 or below, it's going to be in a little short of the round, or a little short of where it is. Actually, no, let's make this interesting. We're going to roll a d100. Anything 33 or below, it's going to fall short. Anything from 34 to 66, it'll be on target. And 67 to 100 will be he overshot it. So let's see. Let's roll a d100. So that is a, what is that, just 20? Boy, d100s, man. Yeah, it's just a 20. So he rolled a 20. So that is below 33, like I said. So he's going to fall short about where he's going to plot that. So he's going to plot it right there. And we're going to call this fire mission Atropia 00. Atropia 001. Okay. There we go. And we're going to make this we're going to leave that like that. Okay. Oh, show the nameplate, please, so I can see which fire mission that is. Okay, Alpha 0001. Okay, so let's go back to our chart just for the sake of ensuring that this is done. So Atropia has now called a fire mission, Alpha 001. Impact turn, because we are on turn 4. This is going to impact on turn 5 because of tech level. It is above a tech level 3, so it's going to take 1 turn. And I have priorities of fire set up, but for this Siberian Ridgeline, both of them are priority of fire 1, so when they call them, it's going to happen. Fort Observing Unit. We're going to say red 4. Firing unit, the M109 Paladin. Ordnance, he's going to call for... he thinks it's infantry, so he's going to call for HE. Sheath pattern, linear. Target location, C map. And pre-planned, no. Okay. So that is that fire mission. So now we're going to see... White 1 is also going to plot a fire mission. He's going to plot it on more or less the dead vehicle of red 1. And again, to see if he can plot it correctly, because he has not seen red 4 yet, same thing. 33 or below, he's going to plot it a little too close. 34 to 66, it's going to be on target. And 67 to 100 is going to be a little too far. So let's see. So that is 17. Okay, so that is 13, my bad. Still well below 33. He's going to plot it short, basically. Way to go. Way to go, platoon leader. Way to go. So let's go ahead and plot this. Okay, so it's going to fall right here. He's going to plot it right across the road here. And we're going to rename this one because it is not an Atropian one. This is going to be D001. You obviously can use whatever naming conventions you want for these. I'm keeping it short and simple. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so Genovia D001. Impact turn. Also, it's going to be next turn, so it's going to be turn 5. Forward observe FO unit. Again, we don't need it, but for my sake, I only allow it if there is direct observation, if it's not a pre-planned fire. So, white 1, firing unit, 2S19, ordnance. He has not seen infantry, so he's going to call for AP. Sheath pattern, linear, target location, C map, and pre-planned, no. Okay, so we have now successfully plotted our artillery because we could not fire anymore. Okay, so we now move into phase 6, movement phase. So again, Atropia still does not have a platoon leader, so Atropia does not get any ordered movement points. Genovia still does have the platoon leader, so let's roll our 2d6. That is 6. 1 plus 2, that's 3. So Genovia has 3 ordered movements. So let's just make sure we're tracking that. 3. And Atropia has 0 because they don't have a platoon leader right now. Okay, so he's got 3 movements. Let's see here. Let's see here. Who does he want to move? White 4 is going to reorient because they're getting real worried about this now. So, they're going to reorient the defense. White 3 is going to reorient, actually. So, white 3 first. So, let's see if he does his movement. 3 minus 2, 1. Yeah, he succeeds. So, he's going to move 16 tracked points through rough terrain 1. So 16. So, he's going to go ahead and reorient. He's going to move up to here, I think. Let's go, for the sake of even realism, let's just even follow the road. So he's going to move up to right around here, I think. Yeah, 12, right there. So right kind of between these little berms here. So again, all still rough terrain 1. So he's not really getting hidden or anything, but that's just where he wants to move, right along the road right here. And he's going to reorient himself facing down the road here. Yep. Yep, okay. So he has moved successfully. We go through all of the ordered movements before we conduct any on your own initiative non-ordered movements. So Atropia just sits tight. So let's see here. Who else wants to move here? White 4 is going to back up a little bit. He's not going to completely abandon this spot because he would feel uncomfortable leaving that flank. So he's just going to reorient himself, but he's not going to really leave this area. So let's see, D20, let's see if he does it. 15 minus 2, 13, yes he does. So he's going to move probably He's honestly just going to kind of reorient himself, like, maybe right here. He's not really going to abandon this, but he's going to reorient himself a little bit. So he's going to, yeah, like this. Yeah. Okay. Just to make sure. Like, he doesn't want to completely abandon this flank. Because he doesn't know if anyone's coming this way. Contact has been made up here, so they're going to be assuming that they're coming here, but at the same time, you never know. Okay, so he has moved. Don't move him, please. I did not ask you to move. Thank you. Okay, there we go. He has moved. Okay, and we still have one more movement order to give. We're gonna go ahead and move this other infantry unit up to their guys here. So they're gonna attempt to move. 3 minus 2, 1. Yep, they do it. So they can move again in rough terrain with their points. It's still going to be 1.3 squares. So they can move basically to the square adjacent at this point. So they can move right here. Okay, let's keep them separate. So there we go. Okay, so now they're providing local security within 100 meters of this HEGM key. Okay. All right, so now disorganized or unordered movements. Red 2 and Red 3 have not been able to move, neither has Red 4. We're going to move Red 2. Red 2 is going to try to get up into this fight because he's the Abrams. He can take more and he can deal more damage. So D20 plus the 3, 17. Oh, 17 plus 3 is 20. They fail that because they needed to hit a cohesion level of 18. So he does not move on his own. He failed that on his own initiative move. So for whatever reason, maybe they're still arguing with whether they should move or not, or what are we going to do? Is Red 4 okay? However you want to roleplay that, Red 2 does not move. So they are stragglers now. They're not moving anywhere, even with the on their own initiative moves. Okay, so one more on your own initiative move. Honestly, now I'm happy with where they're at. So, okay, that ends the movement phase. Okay, so now third standard fire phase, any tech level 5s. We don't have tech level 5s. Then the marker removal phase. So the marker removal phase is now where we get to try to remove some of these markers. So let's start with Denovia. It's really easy. They didn't take any fire. Yeah, they didn't take any fire. So green and the red one. Okay. Then we now, on Atropia's side, removing actual disorganized or suppressed markers requires cohesion rolls, and a disorganized, which is very close to being destroyed, it is much worse than being suppressed or even a further level of suppressed. There's 2 levels of suppressions. There's a progression of suppressed and then kind of extra suppressed. So this is going to be very interesting. So it is on the combat differential page. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep, okay. So, suppressed. Okay, so he is disorganized, so to remove these, so marker removal. I didn't know if they had this here or not. Marker removal procedure. Okay, remove all movement and impact markers. We've removed all those. Roll 1 d20 cohesion roll for each stand with S or D markers. To remove an S marker, the pass cohesion roll modified for +4 for recovery. To remove a D marker, they have to roll an unmodified 1. So, oh boy. Okay. And if it's a 20, it automatically sends the unit to an S. If it's already an S, it sends it to a further level of suppression because they're panicking. Okay, so this is the only one that has a marker, so let's try to roll for him at d20. He needs to roll a 1, unmodified. He did not rally. He is still disorganized and trying to figure out what just happened after getting hit. Okay. Let's do it. Let's move into the next turn. And now we're getting a lot of different elements introduced in this turn now. So, we are now in turn 5. So turn 5 now. And now we are going to keep the same initiative. Oh yes, we did not rally either. Hold on. Before we get there, we have to see if white 4 can become the platoon leader or not, which is going to be... Let's see here. That's deviation, special artillery, ATGM fire. There it is. Okay. If force cohesion is 15 or less, modify. Okay. Die roll if your force cohesion level is 14 or less. None of this is really. Okay. Yep. So for lost headquarters, at the beginning of the phase following the one in which a GHQ or HQ is lost, you must designate in writing which stand is to take command. During the marker removal phase, the ensuing marker removal phase, you must make a successful cohesion die roll to change command. So, let's roll a 20, because they don't have any penalties because they had a very high cohesion. 18, wow, it's exactly what they needed. So, white 4, being disorganized still, was able to rally. They do have a chain of command again, so they no longer suffer the movement penalties, unless he dies. In which case it starts all over again. Okay, so we're now in phase 5. Now we get to fire, so this is fun. So, it goes in order of initiative, so the initiative has stayed the same, so Atropius Fire hits first. Their fire mission hits moments before. So, we have to roll a cohesion to see if it fires. 6, it fires. And then we need to roll another cohesion roll to see if it deviates or not. And I want to see if they've got this in here, just to make sure. Okay, yep. Roll for cohesion, modified for terrain and tech level. So 6, they're firing into rough terrain 3. So what is that? Firing into rough terrain 3. Firing. If personnel plus 6. Oh, wow. 12. Okay, so that's 12. Plus tech level. It's a tech level 4, so it doesn't have any issues. So yeah, so 12. It still makes it. So the fire mission went through. It is. The rounds are coming. So now, roll for deviation. So now it has to pass a cohesion roll for deviation. That was close. 8. It passes. There is no deviation. It does not move off course. If it did move off course, you would roll a series of d8s, 2 d8s to be precise, and you would figure out both direction and distance of how far it deviated off course. So, no deviation. So now well, there's nothing actually happening in terms of hitting, so we're not going to do any damage yet. Not any damage yet. So, okay, so it is now firing, so we're going to go ahead and put these little firing markers here. Okay, whoops. Firing markers here. And we're just going to place it right here. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and move this guy. I wonder if I can stretch this guy out. Let's see. To cover 3. Oh, I just want 3. I just want 3. Let me see here. There we go. Cool. So we're going to move him right on top of here. Okay, on the fire mission, it is firing now. None of the infantry are really within range because, again, he called it a little short. So it is not affecting anybody at this moment. Then the fire mission for white 1, or from the infantry, or white 1 fires. So let's roll a cohesion roll. 7, firing into rough terrain 1, so plus 1, 8. Let's make sure that that's what that is. Yep, so 8. It fires. So it fires. Let's see if it deviates or not. does not deviate. So it is landing on target, and again, same thing, really. We can make this a drawing though, so it's not annoying all the time. Turn into a drawing, please. There we go. Okay, let's see here. There we go, and right there. Okay, so those are firing as well. However, it does not hit red 4 because white 1 called it short as well. So, both are firing. Now we move into the next phase. So these will stay active throughout the entire movement. So if anybody passes through them, they will get hit by artillery fire. So the next phase after that is now a standard firing phase, tech level 4 and 5. Red 4 saw where that, so after they have fired, the cohesion level is that the cohesion penalty is now gone. So I'm going to say that he's allowed to fire HE into this infantry area, even though the line of sight is blocked. But it's still going to have a major penalty firing into it. So let's go ahead and see if he rolls. He's going to have a lot of penalties, so let's see. He's red 4 is going to fire on the HEGM team as best as he can. So red 4 rolls a d20. Ooh, 16, I believe. Let's make sure. Yep, it's a 16. Okay, 16. So now we modify the fire by S and D effects. So the S and D effects plus 3. So plus 3, 16 plus 3 is 19. Plus firing into rough terrain 3, firing into it at personnel 6. 19 plus 6 is 25. He does not hit. He doesn't hit anything. So he's firing, but they're so disoriented and he can't see the infantry. He's not hitting anything. He's firing though. He's trying to hit something, but yeah. Okay, so next phase. Heck. Let's have the ATGM fire again. It's been, he can, or not yet, it's not his phase. So, tech level 4s. White 2 cannot see anything, white 3 cannot see anything. Yeah, so no one's going to fire there, so we move to the next phase, which is second standard firing phase. All qualified stands may fire in this phase. Red 1 is going to attempt to fire again, because again, he has initiative, and he may fire 2 times per turn. He may fire during the first standard phase as a tech level 4, and he may fire again as a during the second standard fire phase. So, let's see. I'm gonna roll a d20. Let's see. A lot of 8. No, we already know 18 is what he needed. Plus 3 from being disorganized. 21 plus another 6 firing into him. So he can't fire. He's firing, but he's not hitting anything. The ATGM is going to fire. Let's roll a d20. 9 firing into rough terrain. 1 plus 1. They have no S or D effects on them, so just, yeah, it hits. It's 10. So it hits. Range is, we already know, like 1100 meters. Yep. So it hits. Let's roll for damage. So we already know that the difference between the 17 and I believe it's 12 is 5. Yep, is 5. So let's go ahead and roll our 2d6s for the other half of the combat differential table. 6 plus, there is no range issue, and there is only terrain, so 7. So 7 on the vertical axis, and 5 on the... Ooh, yeah. They have successfully destroyed red 4. So red 4 is also now down for the count. How fascinating. Truly. Okay, there we go. And red 4 is now down for the count. He is no longer disorganized or having fired because he is dead now. Alright, so, yeah, there we go. So we're going to go ahead and call it right here. As you can see, this game is full swing right now. A lot of stuff is happening. The infantry are definitely different, especially if you get them in that really bad terrain. It's hard to hit anything in there, and it really shows. It's a huge penalty. So we're gonna go ahead and call it there. I hope you guys enjoyed this introduction to GHQ's modern micro armor. Again, this game is very fun. It's very, very open for interpretation and freedom in terms of how to run the scenarios that you can come up with. So that is why I chose that as kind of it is the module it is the system that I am running and the one that I had in mind when I wrote Black Horses. So I hope that I think I ran through pretty much all of the rules here. We went through artillery, went through infantry, firing, movement, even lost headquarters. There's a few more. Obviously, we can't cover every single rule that comes up, but I think we got a pretty good amount in there. I hope you guys can take this either now or if you're watching this later. I hope this has helped. I hope that this has been a way for you to play the game, because I know that before I had the book, this game was a little complicated to figure out, and I hope that this has helped. And also, there were no tutorials on YouTube or anywhere, so I hope that, hey, you're watching this tutorial and that you can learn something from it. So get out there, go to GHQ's website, see the miniatures, they're great. The book is pretty great. If you don't want to buy the book, there's the free set of rules, which are truncated, called the Beer and Pretzels rules, which is where I started. And of course, this is all leading up my book, Black Horses, which is a module for tabletop wargaming, simulating the war between Atropia and Genovia, which for anyone in the Army knows that is National Training Center out of Fort Irwin, California, and anyone that was a fellow Black Horse with me, you guys know exactly what that is, and I hope you guys find a certain level of nostalgia, humor, and just something fun that you can do either with other vets, by yourself, or again, if you're looking for training opportunities with other officers or leadership development, you can use that as a starting place for tabletop wargaming. Go ahead and check it out. It's available on Amazon right now for $24.99. It is very similar in terms of print quality to this book because it is paperback and glossy cover. I will be receiving my author copies here shortly. So go ahead and go check it out. I will leave link probably on our link tree, honestly, in all of our social media, in all of our different social medias. So go ahead and check it out. And again, all of this leading up to next Sunday. I will post the time shortly. I will have guests on this show, fellow Black Horses that I served with. Well, I need to check how much of their names I can use. I guess I'll do that next week. But two very close friends of mine that were in the Army with me and in that unit with me, and they volunteered their time to go ahead and run this game with us so that we can have other people playing besides me playing against myself. So I'll see you guys next Sunday for that. So we will not have one. We will not have a stream next Thursday, which would normally be my tabletop night. We'll probably just I will replace one of those with just a fun enlisted gameplay. But Sunday is the main event, so tune in next Sunday for tabletop wargaming, for Black Horses being run in its entirety with my two Army buddies. Until then, everyone take care. Thank you guys for watching this. I know it's been a little long. I know for streams, not too long. But take care out there. Again, as I said earlier, and I'll reiterate again, it's a weird time right now for vets, especially ones who deployed. I myself did not. I will always be 100% clear about that. But for those that did, I had a lot of officers and a lot of NCOs that did and spent a lot of their life in either Iraq or Afghanistan. And so just make sure they're doing okay. Support some causes. I know there's a lot of different veterans organizing causes to help people in Afghanistan, to help veterans to deal with this. Just do something positive. That's the best thing I can say. Just do something positive to help somebody. So, okay. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope that this has helped you guys. Check out Black Horses and make sure to follow our Twitch. So, see you guys next week. Peace.